Good morning, Burbs. My name is Azelyra, and welcome back to another, long-awaited episode of Oracle Connection, I would imagine. So, today I'm not alone. I'm, of course, with my constant co-host, Mr. CammyCakes. How are you, Cammy?
Hello. I'm good. Another great week of PSO2. Got the boost week in global and about to be boost week in Japan.
Actually, it is now, actually. This week it is now.
Oh, it is? Yeah, you're right.
Yep. So we got a lot of stuff in store to do, which is why we actually needed to bring two more people to actually help us talk about things, because just us is not enough. It's super exciting. So let's start with our first guest here. We have Mr. Karopi.
Oh, hello. Yep, I'm Karopi. I make YouTube content. How are you all?
Same TBH. And then, of course, we have the last one, Mr. Very famously known as the bump.org writer, Mr. lostbob117.
Hello. I don't really do maintenance posts nowadays, so yeah.
Wait, is the 117 because of Halo?
Yeah.
Alright, so you want the battle rifle in global too. I said the real battle rifle, not the one from the battle arena.
Don't worry, my name was just randomly generated on Xbox Live one day.
Yeah, so we're actually discovering really dark secrets about Bob right now, except that we're not going to go into it today. So if you guys have any questions, please poke Bob in the comments section after watching the video. But yeah, anyways, today what we're going to go on a lot about is just because, you know, we had our very last PSO2 station, and we all know that we're going to have a send-off to PSO2, the base game of PSO2, very soon, since PSO2 NGS is coming on very, very soon. And, you know, it was just Bob's really great idea. He's like, yo, RC, you know, we should, like, just come on together and just, like, talk about PSO2 since it's about to, you know, roll over to New Genesis. So that's why we just gathered everyone that, you know, me, Cam, Karopi, and Bob, we all played a majority of our time together on NGS also, along with, like, a lot of the other content creators and so we just thought it would be a nice idea to just come back and just chill, talk a little bit more about how we felt about New Genesis and just moving forwards. So with that said, though, before we start on everything, what's been going on, guys? Like, Cammy, what's been up with you? You said that it's been super busy and stuff.
Yeah, I've been keeping it busy across all my games, across Destiny 2 and then both global and Japan. There's just so much to do. A lot of it's gearing now. Yeah. And part of that is going to be NGS prep, just a little bit.
Yeah, which is exactly a topic that we'll be going into a little bit later as well. Caro, how are you doing then?
I am good. I've been juggling a lot of content creation as well as trying to find time to play video games because I'm kind of addicted to Outriders. So I've been juggling content creation of PSO2, doing my PSO2 stuff, making sure that I take advantage of Boost Week, and yeah, just making sure that I do get enough sleep every day so that I can actually function properly.
Oh.
But overall, good. Very good.
Sleep. What a far-fetched topic. You can tell me a little bit more about that one, Bob.
Well, okay, look. Just because I was up at 5 a.m. when I was supposed to be up at 11 a.m. doesn't mean anything, man. But I've been good, and just give me the golden side gig him or someone.
Yeah. But yeah, overall, I guess, like, we've all just been really busy just taking advantages of, like, Boost Week and stuff, as we should, by the way, because if you don't know, there's, like, a huge Boost Week in both global and Japan right now, so if you gotta level those classes to level 100, everyone, please do so, because you're also gonna get a lot of Star Gems moving forwards, which Star Gems are actually going to be transferable from PSO2 to NGS, except we don't know what it's gonna be used for in NGS for now, so I guess it doesn't hurt to keep a stock. But yeah, speaking of NGS now, as I've mentioned before, right, we're going to be talking a lot about just like our experiences and everything in the NGS stuff. So yeah, let's start off by saying, yo, how do we feel about the beta overall, guys? Let's start with Karopi this time. How do you feel about the NGS beta?
I thought I dodged the bullet because I wasn't in the last video. Unfortunately, you called me on the spot. You know, regarding like your format of giving it a 1 to 10, 10 being max, I would give this like a 7 because no, I'm cultured. I'll give it a 6.9 because it's all right, because I enjoyed the questing process, I enjoyed the exploration, I enjoyed how the graphics looked, but something that I didn't enjoy very much was after you hit around level 12, because after that, through the closed beta, it was a lot of grinding, And grinding is alright if it's done right. And at the moment, at least in the closed beta, my experience of grinding was kind of boring. And so that's something that I am hoping that the next closed beta, or it's something that they're going to work on, because we need some sort of content, some sort of reward system to motivate people to continue grinding. And that's the main gripe that I had with the game. Other than that, everything else was pretty nice.
Yeah, dude, Cammy, we can probably add a bit more on like how the grinding process is, because like if we're talking strictly just like the progression of the game, right? It's basically you start off the game and then it's like, oh yeah, you're level 1, you walk into the world, and then there's like, oh cool, we have some nice like tutorials from this guy where the first thing they tell you to do is literally just go out the world and kill 10 things. I'm like, dude, that's a very good starting point, because you don't have to like go sit through like normal tutorials and stuff, and then you get to go out, kill stuff, come back and be like, yo man, so there's like a cocoon thingy over there, you can go here and like get this stuff for me, thank you very much. And then you go through that, and then it teaches you a little bit more advanced stuff with like the movement all over the world and stuff. I felt like the actual progression curve was actually really, really good, because you basically get like client orders or they're called tasks in NGS, and you just get to play all of them until you're up to like around like level 6, 7 or something, until, well, me and Cammy kind of got stuck on a certain quest.
I was about to bring it up. What's the name of that enemy?
It's the Nagaris.
The Nagaris, there we go, yes. We killed the wrong Nagaris multiple times. It was the higher level one too, so this is grinding, man. This is like 3 or 4 minutes of just wailing on this enemy. We knock it out, and then finally we're like, wait, the quest didn't count. What did we do wrong? We roam around the starter area and find the correct Nagaris, which goes down in like 30 seconds. So
yeah, it was a really awkward experience, because like there's these like natural Nagarises in the map that are like the I think it was called the something form. What was it? Dread form. Yeah, the dread form of the Nagaris that was like level 10 or something like that. We tried to kill them. Like, we saw a lot of like low level players also just trying to kill this like level 10 boss, which took forever, by the way. And it's like, finally, we killed it. Wait, why did the task not clear? It's like, but the task says kill Nagaris. I guess the dread version doesn't count. So we got stuck on that. That's
very weird, considering that you could kill a banger bear in a PSO2 and it would count as a rock bear.
Yeah. I feel like it's not just us that got stuck over there, because a lot of like my teammates from like Skylark and stuff also was like, wait, why can't I get the Nagaris quest clear? Because everyone just like, as we're exploring the world, we get to see all these like natural enemies in their natural environments. And then it's like, wait, that didn't count? That's really weird. It's kind of a specific thing, because I think the solution was that we found the Nagaris that was the reward of a PSC burst climax that actually counted. So I believe the quest was actually just like talking for you to go to like the combat area that was like level 5, which appropriately you will be around level 6 or 7 around that time of that quest. So it's like, yeah, that is appropriate. And then once you're done with that, you come back to the main city, and then you get like a plethora of like tasks from so many NPCs.
So feedback wise, I feel like it's hard to keep an open world type of game experience on rails, if that makes sense. Like, they're trying to set you through a certain path, whereas the player probably will explore and go off that beaten path intentionally. So that quest really needs to be specific about what to do to progress it, if not just allow any Nagaris to progress towards it.
Yeah, because like all the progression up to that point, I felt personally was really good. And then of course, once we finished all the tasks available in the city, literally like every single one, we got stuck around like level 10, level 11, and then, well, Cammy, it's time to head over to the village hidden in the bogs.
The leveling swamp. Yeah, that's where the grind was, but after reflecting on it, it seems like there was maybe another area that we were supposed to access before the swamp, or maybe after the swamp, I guess, is what it is. Like, the swamp enemies were what, level 10 that we were grinding?
Yeah.
And we could have been killing level 15 enemies to level up even faster, but we just didn't have access to a level 15 area.
Yeah, because in the beta, the swamp was basically the only place. It was an exploration area, by the way, not a combat area, so it wasn't even meant for like leveling and stuff. So yeah, that was quite the interesting experience. Bob.
Hello.
If you can Could you expand on like the differences between like the combat and the exploration areas for our listeners?
Sure. So the combat area is up to 8 players, and there's just a lot more enemies, and when you're fighting the enemies, you get PSE. And once you get a full PSE, you get PSE burst, which spawns like a special boss or something. I didn't really play too much in combat area, so I can't, all I know is the info they've told us, so I can't say from experience how it works, because, the combat area in the beta was like level 5, and by the time I got there, I was like, alright, this is giving me 1 EXP, I'm leaving. But, basically, there's just going to be a lot more chances to, like, fight stuff, and I think PSE burst bosses will give you, like, rare items drops, like, I heard someone got like a 3-star weapon from a PSE burst.
Yeah, I can add to this because that was where I got my first 3-star TMG, which is pretty good, and that's why I started to play Gunner. But I spent a lot of time in that area, but the reason I was spending so much time there wasn't for EXP, but more for money, because you get a lot of 3-star drops during the PSE burst, like when the boss spawns. And so it took me a very long time to figure things out, because I couldn't read the Japanese. But in the 8-man version, basically you kill stuff and you just do all the different trials, and then you activate PSE burst. The nice thing about the PSE burst is there's a little gauge on your top left corner, which actually indicates it filling up, instead of vanilla PSO2, where it's just like, ooh, mysterious, we don't know when PSE burst is going to happen. You physically see a bar filling up, and you're like, okay, so this is what you do to fill up the bar. This is what you don't do, because it lowers the bar. And so you just do the things that fill it up. Once it happens, PSE burst just happen somewhere, because you'll see this rainbow beam go up into the sky. You'll see a big emergency sign that will glow rainbow colored, and everyone just gathers to that single location. So I really like that, because it's a lot better than vanilla PSO2, where the mobs just spawn everywhere. And so there's a lot more finesse in vanilla PSO2, where, you get the PSE burst, you have to make sure that everyone's in a corner, so all the mobs spawn together. But in New Genesis, it's very simple. It's, bright light, everyone go there. Oh, lots of mobs, and lots of action. And, it's a lot more simplified for my monkey brain. And the nice thing about the 8-man version is you get a lot more time to experience and to see the impact of your attacks and your PAs, because there's only 8 people and there's so many mobs. I prefer that type of playstyle over the 32-man version, where we're just running around and everything dies in like 0.5 seconds. I'm just like, this is boring. But that's my 2 cents.
I think me and Cammy share the very same sentiment there. Like, Cam, we were talking about how, you don't feel as impactful in like the 32-man, because your value as one person is diminished greatly.
Right. The second that there's another ranger or another force, I'm like, why am I here? But when I am the only one, I can push mechanics and lead the fight a little bit. But if there's too many of them, we kind of steal each other's bullets and whatnot.
How do you feel about that one, Bob? The 8-man versus 32-man?
I've always liked smaller groups more than bigger groups, so I like the 8-man more. Like, I come from PSU, which had 6-man parties, but I play with like 3-man parties all the time in that game.
Although it does beg the question, right? Because it gives me the sense of like, you have this game that's like really big open world and stuff, and then we know now that 32-man instances are possible, but I'm just thinking long term, because they're saying that all the urgent quests and stuff are going to be 8-man. I'm like, is there a possibility that in the future there's going to be like 32-man urgent quests? Because I think that would be absolutely awesome. Imagine fighting like a giant Dark Falls, like True PD, Gamora and stuff, with just like a huge 32-man group. I think that'll be a lot more fun than like compared to an 8-man, for example.
I agree. We fought 1 gigantic actually 2 gigantics in the beta. And I don't even think we had as many max levels as we possibly could have.
Yeah.
But it was really intense as a result of having that many people focused on one task.
But 32-man sounds cool, but when you think about it, if a EQ or whatever dies out eventually and you want to run it again, it's going to be like, if you only get like 10 people, you know, it's going to be pretty hard to fight a boss if there is intended for 32, unless it scales down based on players.
Yeah, it's going to be really rough for that kind of thing, now that you mention it.
It's one of the reasons why I like lower groups, especially when stuff like scales down, is because if, you know, it's only 8 players max, you know, it's just easier to gather people for lower groups.
So what I was thinking when you said that, Bob, was just the fact that, like, what if there's like 2 versions, right? If you want to do like a big raid version, like 32 man or like 12 man, 16 man, whatever, versus like a choice where you can also choose to do like the smaller man version, like the 4 man, 8 man and stuff. So like you can choose between like the modes, and the difficulty basically scales on like the amount of people and stuff like that.
Yes, I was hinting towards that, where it was the difficulty or the HP would scale to the number of players in the field. So for example, when you're in a 32-man instance and there's 32 people in it, the boss has X amount of HP. And maybe even throw in a couple extra mechanics if there's more people, just to spice things up. Yeah. But if you go in with less people, you know, it will scale down to a limit, maybe to like, you know, 4 people or 8 people. Because if you go any lower, then people are going to be like, oh, I'm just going to solo it, blah, 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 you know? And you don't want to encourage solo play, because I feel like PSO2 has always been about group play and party play. So, well, okay, there is some content for solo play, but I don't think urgent quests and these things should be solo only, you know?
Yeah.
Well, now that you bring it up, that is the number one question I get in a Twitch chat for any stream I do on PSO content, whether it's NGS or PSO2. Is this a game for solo players? How does a solo player cope, etc.?
Oh, Cammy, the survey.
What I like is the survey. Yeah, I remember that. That was one of our most asked questions when back in the PSO2 beta for global that we got. We put out the survey to all of our subscribers. They answered it, and the number one question was, is this a solo game? So that interest is out there, and I like how PSO2 answers it with the rematch option on some urgent quests. And maybe that could happen in New Genesis.
Yeah. Also, for solo players, it's actually built where if you don't have a group of friends to play with, you're just playing with whatever, it's made very easy to find like even though you're a solo player, you know, solo player can mean 2 different things, where you want to be by yourself and fight a boss, or you're just playing by yourself and you don't care who else helps you. Like, it's very easy to match up with, for the latter, it's very easy to match up with other people. It's like designed where like you're not gonna be like left behind just because you don't have a group of friends.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. There's a solo player that avoids external matchmaking, and one that embraces it, in-game matchmaking, I guess I should say.
Yeah, like the direction that I was going was, I come into the game without any friends, but I want to play with other people, you know? And I feel like PSO2 does a very good job with the matchmaking system, just letting you play with other players. And the great thing about PSO2, at least from my experience, is as long as you have the game knowledge and the experience, you can hard carry everyone in your group and complete the urgent quest, right? So it doesn't even matter if everyone in your party is dead weight, you can still complete it, which is, that's something that in MMOs that I used to play was not possible. You had to have everyone, you know, on their A game in order to clear it, which, you know, sometimes brings a lot of frustration, which is why I enjoy playing PSO2 quite a lot now.
Yeah, PSO2 really emphasized the, like, you know, there's support classes, but they're really not too mandatory. Like, it's nice to have a ranger, it's nice to have a techer, but even without them, you can just hard carry whenever you want to.
Now, see, on the topic of like matching with people and things like that's also one of my actual like personal concerns about NGS, right? Because they have like these zones where it's like, oh, this zone is level 1, this zone is level 5, this zone is level 10 and stuff like that. It's like, so you have this entire open world, but there's kind of no reason to go to like, you know, 75% of the areas of the world because they're way lower level, and then they don't provide anything you need. So that kind of just gives me a little bit of a thunking moment where how do we recycle these areas, you know, because we're not going to have like the quote unquote world level system like some other games and stuff. How do you guys feel about that one? Caro, I think you might be able to answer this one.
I mean, I'm really hoping that they take the Genshin Impact approach here, where it's everyone has like a account level, or what they call it in Genshin is an adventure level. And so basically, as you level up or as you progress through the story, you fill up this adventure level and you gain levels and you become stronger. And everything around you in that world scales up based on your strength. But let's say that you have a friend that joins in that's, you know, he's a newbie. They just started the game. So in their world, they're going to see everything at whatever level they are. But when you go in with them, the mobs that you're hitting are going to be a lot higher HP. And so you can play together, but the mobs that you see are high level, the mobs that they see are low level. And same as the loot as well. The items that drop, it's still going to be relevant for your level, because when you kill the stuff, it still drops useful items for you, but you can still play with your friends. And that way, it's I like that approach very much.
That definitely does sound very, very interesting when it comes to actually, like, you know, using the whole world as a whole.
I like that approach too. The other alternative would be making certain blocks have higher levels.
Yeah, I think that would be an easier approach, is just making blocks for higher levels.
Or beginner blocks, conversely, whatever one makes more sense.
The only issue with that is, I think one of the ideas they wanted to push is that if a random high level is just running around, they can help out the low levels by helping just kill stuff. I noticed in a beginner area, there was a Daito sword that could spawn that was like level 15.
It was level 10 actually.
Or something. Level 10.
Yeah. No, Cammy, that was the first boss that we tried to kill.
Yeah.
It was the level 10. It was a big level 10 one.
He would randomly appear. I'm like, there's level 1s around you. What are you doing here? But at the same time, it's a thing that higher levels could be farming while helping the lower levels.
Yeah, I understand the inclusiveness, but then it's like the argument, because we were talking about, you know, the bog area, the swamp area, and it's like, why would you go to the beginner area as opposed to running around and farming like the bog, right?
It already took a while in the swamp, and the swamp was the best EXP, so I can't imagine warranting going anywhere else.
At least in the beta, so far. Mm-hmm. Because everything is definitely subject to change.
But as an example of, I guess, player tendencies when given the options, the full game release can't repeat that mistake. It has to have places that push you to the next best XP. Yeah, because it's like, if you think of the same issue in base PSO2, right? It's like, so you have these quests and stuff that are low level, and then once you clear them once and you're beyond the threshold, now there's no reason to run them anymore, which quote unquote creates the dead content. And having already seen signs of dead content in New Genesis is there has to be something that they can do to make it, you know, worthwhile. Well, in PSO2, the quote unquote dead content, the answer has always been just throw star gems at them.
Yeah, but although for NGS, the one thing that does makes you go to all these areas is because you want to farm for Meseta, right? And then the most reliable source of Meseta outside of weekly quests right now is finding these things called the Alpha reactors that are just scattered around the world, and they apparently respawn once every 3 or so hours. So that's one of the reasons why you would be running around the world finding, you know, those boxes, finding the things to sell, finding those kinds of things.
Right. What I don't like is that my character at some point when going back to the old areas is just going to be one-shotting things.
Yeah. It kind of kills the mood and tone where they really try to set up NGS to be a lot more meaningful encounters and less of the clump of mobs where you just kill with one hit or something, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, when you're low level, the world is a lot scarier in the sense that you're like, oh no, a Banser ambush. But as soon as you're high level, you're like, whatever, let me just go grab these.
I feel like that in a way is the natural progression where, because Phantasy Star is, you know, power fantasy, and they want to make you feel powerful, right? So I think that's a normal just progression in a way, but yeah.
I think the argument to that is, if, you know, since we're new, it's oh, there's a Banshee or Banshee or whatever, and is like, oh, that's kind of tough. But when you think about it, like, if you're like hunting in like real life, you're like, oh, there's a wolf, I gotta run or something. But if there's like a scaled person, it's like, oh, there's a wolf, I'm gonna go take it down. It's kind of the same concept where once you're more experienced at what you're doing, you just look at those scarier things when you're like new, and it's like, oh, let's go take on this thing. And as you progress on it, it becomes like clockwork, kind of.
Right. When I talk about these things, I think like 10,000 hours in the future of playing the game nonstop. And again, like RC originally brought up, I'm kind of worried about some of the replayability of areas based on the leveling.
You know, like after Bob mentioned about the monster thing, I just immediately thought of Monster Hunter Rise and like how they have high rank for, you know, the higher level stuff to farm for the endgame gear. And I link that with PSO2. You know how in PSO2, when we set up to an expedition, you can select difficulty where there's like super hard, blah, blah, blah. And technically, when we go into the zone, it's technically the same as an expedition because you can set up a room with a password and only set amount of people can go in. So why not just have it when you enter said zone, you get to select what difficulty and then you just go in. Easy peasy, right? So it's still open world, but all the mobs are going to scale based on what difficulty you picked.
Yeah, I think
just like how base PSO2 is, right?
Yeah, I think it's similar to the block idea where going down blocks become like picking the block would change the difficulty.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Even with no rewards, if I could have the option to scale down, I probably would. But for a lot of players, I imagine you maybe have to say that if you choose to scale down to the enemy, you get maybe more Maceta as a result or something, more RDR.
One of the things about scaling down is they have to do it right as well, because Cammy, and all you guys actually, how much experience do you guys have with the Buster Quest when you have to be scaled down to tier 1 and tier 2?
I hated it. I freaking hated it. I don't like Buster Quest, especially when I got scaled down and I felt so weak. And it went against the whole concept of the power fantasy. Like, I played this game because I want to be powerful. And I was just like, why are you making me weak and garbage? And it was just a bad feeling for me. I didn't like it at all.
Yeah, I think one of my biggest gripes is like, you have like, 200 something PP and then you're like restricted to like 130 and it's like, why? But like other than that, I think like the power scaling and stuff is kind of okay. Kind of going towards like what Cammy was saying, where you have the option to scale yourself down. But there are certain things that really just drastically changes your gameplay. For example, like the PP pool, right? If that is scaled down, then it's like, oh, that does not feel good.
So I'll go on the little side tangent here and say when Buster Quest first released in Global, my alliance was going really hard in the paint here. We tilted the chairs forward. Our goal was to unlock the timed ability crafting for the ship by giving one person all the materials we get as a reward for completing Buster Quest and having them craft nonstop throughout the day. And so we had to be really, really efficient with our Buster play. And as we're getting other people maxed out on their Buster level or whatever it's called, we're getting scaled down while we do it sometimes. And even though it scales down, the intensity is still there, which is what I appreciate.
Yeah, I feel like it's just something that just has to be, the done right in a way, which the potential is there, but there just has to be that like fine tuning.
So on JP for Buster Quest when it first came out, there was actually no intensity because everyone was playing hero class and it made it just so easy.
That's so true. Yeah, I didn't think about that. We got to maybe experience a purer Buster Quest on Global than you guys did.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you guys got the version where all class are already buffed.
That's true. Yeah, we did have some power problems as well. I was always wondering what the point of some of the Buster Quest defense options are, because some of them just didn't make any sense. They were clearly weaker than the other options. But then I was also thinking that if we were proper power level in terms of our gear and whatnot, maybe those options might have made sense if you had one under-geared support player.
Yeah, I think it's just a really nice and fun topic to just think about. It's like, also the differences, again, between JP and NA, which I don't know. Now that I think about that, right? It's like, I'm just thinking forward to NGS, like, since they're trying to go for like a simultaneous release, I just wonder, like, between the players of Global and JP, how different are the two games going to be, right? Because there will be differences in terms of like community, that's for sure. For example, like in Japan, certain classes might be more quote unquote meta and more popular, and just like that's how the game's going to be played. And then maybe on the global side, you have like these certain group of players that are more recommended, or well, more drawn towards like a certain class and play style, so it's going to be completely different as well. So like both servers kind of like develop their own meta game and approaches to the game, and that's just something that I think is going to be very beautiful moving forwards.
Yeah, I play both servers, and what I notice on Global is that as an alliance leader, I have to always pack a techer, know how to play it at some basic level, so that I can always have one for a group. For some reason or whatever, that class just doesn't seem popular.
On the topic of classes, we can move to the point of what was your guys' favorite classes, to be honest. Yeah.
In NGS? Or PSO2? Or both?
Both, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, actually, yeah, that's a very good one. Let's talk about our favorite classes for both so far. Even though it's a little limited, because in the beta we only had like one class had one weapon, but we already saw the trailers that we're going to have a lot more weapons and stuff. So, Bob, lead us off.
All right, so it's kind of hard for me to say what my favorite classes are, because I only play one class, so... Hunter is clearly my favorite class on both right now, because I just sword main only. Yeah, so the other weapon types actually looked really cool on Fighter, though. After looking at the NGS trailers, I'm definitely going to try other classes and, like, class combinations, like, multi-weapon, certain kind of weapons, like... Maybe like a sword and some twin daggers or something.
Well, hold up. If we're talking hunter weapons, Wirelands got a big glow up from PSO2 to NGS.
Yeah, they did. They're much...
Yeah, those look super exciting.
They're much less grabby and more whip-like. And I think that is exciting because Wire Lenses on PSO2 was the most clunkiest weapon ever. It's like...
Oh my lord.
It was so there's... I don't know what it's called on Global, and I don't really remember what it's called on JP because I haven't played Wireless in a while. But is it Spinning Cyclone or something?
Other Cyclone? Something.
You grab the ammo and you just start spinning around a lot. It has a Type 0 PA.
Right.
But if you miss the enemy and you weren't like careful, you would use the PA like 3 more times without dying because... You're just like, you're just assuming it's going to hit. And then you press it and it doesn't hit. But you're already holding down the button.
Oh, yeah, so it recast.
That'll happen with weak bullets, where you think you're about to shoot a normal or something, and then you accidentally launch 3 of them.
I mean, that's just not looking, man.
Yeah, weak bullet is actually changed to be an active skill now in NGS. So I guess, Cam, let's move on to you. How do you feel about classes?
Ranger. The weak bullet change, but the weak bullet has been changed from some bullet that you load into your rifle and then use 6 of them to now an active skill. So instead of shooting your normal attack with a weak bullet loaded, you now just shoot the weak bullet. I don't know if I like the change. And I think that comes down to both PSO2 and New Genesis keybind options. I'd like to see some more customization to make that easier to place the weak bullet where you want to.
I have a question for you. It actually can tie back into Hunter, because Vorgraptor was placed from a PA to a class skill. And weak bullet, how you usually place it, load in and you normal attack. But now you just press the key. How does that feel when you do it? Because I don't know how global people do it, but I've been used to not using my sub palette for PAs.
Okay, so that's a great point. Certain classes benefit from mouse and keyboard having access to a lot of sub palettes and then using all your numbers on the sub palette. So for Ranger, I'd always put weak bullet somewhere away that I don't use very often, because you press it once to load and then you don't worry about it for 90 seconds. But in New Genesis, you might have to worry about it every couple of seconds. So I need to put it somewhere that's accessible that I'm not used to. And that accessible place might be vying for the spot of maybe a grenade or something else that's just as used.
Do you think it'll be easier Now that we only have one type of healing item compared to 3.
It definitely saves a lot of palette space, that's for sure.
Yes.
Thank you. I actually never put one of the healing, as a hunter player, I put the healing items on my palette because there's nothing else to put there. But I put only monomate and dimate just to track where I'm at in mates during the quest. Since I'm using automate.
Yeah.
If I have 0, it's okay, I'm on trimates right now. So, you don't need trimates listed.
Mm-hmm.
Or you don't need monomates listed if you wanted to. Just the other 2.
My palette's been built a little bit for universal game. I know that when I have the best gear possible, I rarely touch my mates. So mouse and keyboard, sub-palette space, it's very, very important. And some classes, like when I play Techer or Force, that is when I am extremely happy I'm a keyboard player. But the second that I touch Hunter, I realize that I wouldn't even need more than one sub-palette, so I could just play on controller fine. And maybe more comfortable.
Yeah, and then there's, the problem with classes like Bouncers where there's 6 active skills.
And then Gunner with the weapon canceling.
The Bouncer trigger.
Yeah, and then all these chain triggers that you have to always keep in mind. And oh my lord. And then Showtime. And there's just so... I feel like base PSO2 just they tried to cram so much active skills on the palette where, it's not super controller friendly, so to say. Which is what they're trying to fix with a lot of the successor or sign classes, as you might call it.
Oh, for sure. With the Twill, I'm on a 1 palette setup, but on Techer or Force, I can use all 6, no problem.
Yeah, your brother Perp actually talks a lot about this, where when he touches 12 for the first time, he's like, dude, this class is so controller friendly.
Yeah, that's a big thing when we talk about Twitch chats and frequently asked questions. That's another one that I get is this controller friendly? And my answer after playing for a year is now it depends on the class.
Yeah, it really does. But which is why it makes me pretty happy that they kind of try to streamline everything more in NGS, where every class feels a lot more, controller friendly. And speaking of controllers, Keropi, I know you have a very certain something to talk about that.
Yeah, I was very dumbfounded when I pressed circle 3 times and it logged me out of the game. That was really dumb. But upon further inspection and actually being smart about it and not just complaining like a monkey, what happened was I got disconnected at the same moment that I was pressing the O key. So it wasn't a design flaw. So the game doesn't actually log you out if you press O 3 times. It just so happened at the time of recording, at the time of that stream, I just disconnected at the moment I pressed O. And that's exactly what happened. So
I think it's hilarious.
It's not the dev's fault. Yeah, it was just weird though, because I legitimately thought it logged you out if you press O 3 times, and I was just like, what is this design? This is so stupid. And yeah, no, it was just me being dumb. It's fine.
What if I need to emergency log out, man? How
yeah,
am I gonna do
my
it now?
my chat went wild. My chat was like, oh my god, mom entered the room, quick, close the game. Oh, it was great.
So we were talking about favorite classes. I'll close out the Ranger discussion by saying that Ranger in PSO2 has these special bullets that you can load into your weapon, and there are some on Launcher that I wish were more useful but are not.
Dude, Cam, I was screaming to you on Challenge Quest the other day. Cam, there's Gelin bullet on the Launcher.
Hey, in challenge mode, those might make a player or two, but in generic PSO2, no, you don't really see them. Especially when some of the successor classes apply Gelin for free.
Right.
And that it takes up the load of your weak bullet.
I love Gelin.
So if I want to use Gelin on the launcher, I can't use weak bullet on the rifle. Unfortunate. It looks like New Genesis, though, with the active bullet is might be the solution to that. So I'm excited to see what launcher brings to the table.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think active bullet is a very good way to categorize it.
On the top of new weapons that were shown that we couldn't play yet, my only concern with Raw Lens when we were talking about it is the having to be a certain distance to do the max damage. I really don't like those things because I would like to be monkey and just do whatever I want.
Yeah, that's actually a really good one to add, Cam. Like throughout your experience in NGS, right, before you close out the Ranger topic, like how much did you notice the quote-unquote critical distance mechanic?
It was something that I always had to keep in mind. because you would notice the bullets obviously doing more damage. So you like seeing more damage, more blue numbers.
But like as you play, it's like you kind of stop thinking about it more, right? Because it's like you kind of got used to it. It felt more comfortable and stuff like that. How would you describe the whole experience with the whole new mechanic of distance?
For sure, but it's not something that's new to an experienced ranger in PSO2, because in base PSO2, you have a skill on your tree that's called sharpshooter. When you're at long distance, you deal more damage. And since ranger has a couple skills that move you around, you want to avoid getting under that sharpshooter distance. You want to be slightly over to keep it applied. So you're always thinking about your distance in relation to the boss for that extra 5% damage.
Yeah.
And in New Genesis, it's the same thing, but now closer range.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to keep it in between those two areas, not just the longer one, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Do you feel like it adds more like skill and depth in a like good way? Or do you feel like it might be more difficult for like newer players, for example?
Too soon to tell. What I do like is it avoids someone sitting on a top of a cliff, picking off an enemy at a long distance with no danger whatsoever. And that's a problem with Destiny too. Anytime there's a hard boss, the first completion is always sitting in the back of the room with as much cover as you possibly can, shooting through a crack in the wall until a boss is dead 30 minutes later. And if you don't get a damage bonus for playing like that, that might not be the way to go.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point.
But enough of Ranger. We haven't heard Karopi's favorite class.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty obvious. My favorite class is, of course, Braver. However, I couldn't play Braver in NGS Closed Beta, so I played the next best thing, which was Hunter. I went in with the mindset of like, hey, I'm going to try out every single class. And then I realized that was not very possible with the limited time we had. Or at least, I wasn't comfortable playing like surface level every class just to get to like level 10 or something. I felt like that wouldn't do my viewers justice if I were to give any feedback.
Mm-hmm.
And so I stuck with Hunter, but I soon switched to Gunner because of the TMG drops that I got, the 3-star TMG. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. However, because I guess it's just my inability to read, I didn't know what my skills were doing. Like when I watched RC's VODs and like when you were talking about like your playthrough through the tower and all that stuff, the way that you played Gunner was very different from what I played.
Oh?
You were doing like 5 different abilities, and I was literally just right-clicking. I was like, wow, this is so fun, just right-clicking. But like, I don't say that as a sarcastic way. I was legitimately having a lot of fun, but I was just spamming one move. And for me, I just found a lot of joy because the animation looked so clean, and the attacks felt so powerful, and there was a lot of feedback. So even though I was only doing one PA over and over and over again, it felt very satisfying. But when I watched your play, I was like, wow, the Gunner can do all that? What are those skills? I've never seen that before. And I think this is the nice thing about New Genesis that I'm hoping will bring in a lot of new players in. Because I know not everyone is super min-max and wants to explore the entire sandbox and break everything down like CammyCakes and yourself. There's people like me, okay? I am the filthy casual player that just wants to see bright lights and big numbers, right? I don't care about augmenting. I don't care about anything. I just want to have fun, right? And have that power fantasy of, I am the king of the world. I just want that experience. And I feel like NGS is going in the right direction of like, hey, if you want to play like an absolute monkey, you can. And you're still contributing. While, if you really want to min-max, there's a lot of depth in the class, which allows you to truly experience, min-maxing and all that stuff.
Yeah, see, now that you brought up the casual point, Carol, I have a very good question for you, because this is super highly debated between like all my friends and everything, and all my longtime like viewers and everything as well. How do you feel about the disappearance of just attacks?
I mean, because I've played a lot of PSO2, it's muscle memory of doing the just attacks, but I like just attacks disappearing. I like the removal of just attacks. And let me explain. The reason is because I'm lazy. it really just boils down to I'm lazy. I want to just hold down the mouse click and that's it. You know, I was considering making a macro in PSO2 just so that I can hold down mouse 4 and get perfect auto attacks every time. And I was just like, then I tested it and I was like, wow, the DPS gain is like, it's all right. It is an improvement, but you know, it's not worth going through a macro, right? Because I don't know the terms of service, and I was just like, no, I'm not going to do this because I don't want to get banned in case it is against terms of service. And so I just started playing normally again. And so the removal of just attacks, to me, I like it because I can be very, very lazy. I can plug in a controller, hold down the square button, and just be like, oh yes, this is the life, and just see bright lights and big numbers.
How do you feel about that one, Bob?
So removing just attacks, this like is weird for me because like I'm so used to just attacks in every Phantasy Star I've played basically, but I think the removal of them will allow them to do a lot more of the game, in a sense. Like, so one, it'll make it easier to balance, because you don't have to think about, like, how easy do I need to make this just attack timing? Like, it's a factor that's removed. Like, you always instantly, like... And it also helps decide... So, when you're looking at PAs on PSO2 for DPS, you have to think, so, how much DPS does this do, and how long does it take to get to the next JA circle? With the removal of that, you don't really have to think about all that. You just play your PAs, whatever. And I think it might just take focus on off a new player. Like, they're just looking at their character instead of looking like at what the enemy's doing. It just lets them focus more on the enemy.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, and then from Karo's point, you can kind of just like watch your character do like animations and dances and everything a lot more too without having to worry about that.
Yeah. I think for more experienced players, it is really like a non-factor, because like most of the time you're doing like 90% of your just attacks once you got the muscle memory down after like an hour or two playing the class.
Yeah, like another perspective coming from a casual player is most of the time when I'm playing a new urgent quest or I'm doing like just any party activities, right? I'm usually looking at the boss and looking at its rotations, and the one thing that I really gain a lot of satisfaction from, and I really like how they added it to most of the classes or all the classes, is the counter. That feels very satisfying when you do a perfect counter and you get to deal additional damage to that. Like, that mechanic is great because it's, hey, you do need some mechanical skill in this, but you get rewarded greatly if you can master it. But it's easy enough to just pick up and be like, when the enemy is about to hit you, click this button. It's like, oh, I can understand that. And so it's, removing the just attack it's one less thing for me to worry about. But instead of worrying about if I'm just attacking, I can worry about like, oh, I want to get greedy here. I want to get aggressive, and I want to perfect counter all these attacks so that I can deal even more damage.
Yeah, it really takes the skill cap from, timing to other kind of stuff in the game. Like, they'll just add more mechanics that replaces it, basically, in terms of how good are you, especially with like how they changed the cancel timing of PAs. Like, in normal PSO2, you can cancel any attack basically, like instantly, to just dodge your like counter. But in New Genesis, it's not as lenient. Like, some PAs, if you're stuck in it, you're about to just take a hit. And it's like, so how do I watch the boss and learn his patterns where I know what PAs I can do and how I can weave my counters into my PAs?
Yeah, because I feel like it might be a concern in the future for a lot of players, because it doesn't feel good, when you're stuck in like animations like that. But then earlier, I think you were talking about like Monster Hunter as well, right? Because Monster Hunter is like one of those games where you get punished for animation locks a lot. And that is kind of like the theme of Monster Hunter, is that you have to watch and choose your moments very carefully. But that's a Monster Hunter thing, and kind of like not a very Phantasy Star thing, right? So it kind of feels personally really weird for me when I feel like, oh man, I'm gonna get punished for being locked in this animation, as opposed to being able to reactively dodge like I normally do. But, well, that's one thing that they're probably going to fix later on in the future, because there happens to be a lot of complaints from, as we saw from the prologue live stream, that a lot of players just didn't like so much, right? So I think that's just something that I digress a little bit, because it's something that we'll have to see in the future of what happens. But, Caro, on the point of, like, you were talking about, like, you like encounters and everything, I have a bit of a thought experiment. So with every class having access to counters and stuff, do you think it kills the individuality of these like counter-based classes? Like, for example, in base PSO2 right now, you think of like Hero as like the counter class, or like Luster as like the counter class, kind of, right? While other classes, you don't really get the rewards for like countering because they're not as much counter classes. Like, for example, you play Force and Ranger. They reward you for positioning at a very, very good position for yourself, where you can do a lot more DPS because you're kind of like locked more in place, as opposed to reactively countering. So if you want to play like the reactive classes, you play those counter classes. Like, do you feel like every class having counters is a bit more like, you know, kills the individuality of?
I personally, I'm a very positive person, lucky or happy-go-lucky, and I honestly I think that Sega is like cooking up some like really sick, awesome, trademark things for these classes, because they took away the counters, right? They gave the counters to everyone, so they need something to make that class special. And I'm kind of excited to see, like, what is the Braver gonna get now? What is the Hero gonna get now? Like, I'm not, for the Scion classes, I know that it's gonna be a while before they come out, so I'm just gonna be like, it's fine, I'll wait for that. But I'm trying very hard to contain my excitement for like the base classes that are coming out, like the Braver. We've seen leaks of the Braver being in the files for New Genesis already. So I'm like, what are they going to do for the Braver to make it even more special? Are we going to get like some anime sheath, like in Monster Hunter World, where you do like a giant overhead swing, you sheath your katana and it does residual damage? It's like super anime-like. I'm thinking they're going to make each class special in its own way, because they gave counters to everyone. But I think that's a good thing. It's giving more content, giving more flavor, more character. So that's what I think.
And then putting also it in like a more even playing field.
I'd like to point out that I think giving counters to it's not really like, so you have a counter on your step, right? But it's like, it's not like a counter in a sense like you weapon action, you counter right there, like you do a counter attack. It's more in a sense where if you dodge, you get rewarded in a way. Like, it's like not just, you dodge the damage. It's, you dodge the damage, so here's a reward for being better in a sense. But a counter class that is in PSO2 Hunter is already in a New Genesis, and how they changed it where you have a really powerful like counter attack with your weapon action, but you also have a skill where right when you activate your PA, if you activate it at the right time of an enemy hitting you, you avoid the attack and you gain bonus damage to your PA, which is similar to how Ignition Parry worked in regular PSO2, but it was easier to do basically. But I think there's going to be some like sick hunter play, like just charging up an attack, waiting for the enemy to hit, and just releasing that attack instantly.
So basically you kind of get like guard points like the Etoile Double Saber?
Yeah, basically. But it's like, you have to activate the PA at the right time. Yep.
Basically guard points. Yeah, that's very nice.
I like that system.
That's actually very nice. I actually did not know that.
Yeah, it was called Photonar's Avenge.
I played it very briefly.
Yeah, it should be clear. Force had a block, not a counter, but the block gave you PP. So if you knew a boss's attack patterns and it had like this lengthy charge up animation for a laser or something, what you could do is empty your entire meter on Ranger and then weapon swap to the rod right as the laser's coming out to then instantly hit the block to refill some PP, then going into, now I'm going to element this boss so that it freezes and everybody can damage it or something. So a really cool gameplay loop there.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing, Cammy. With multi-weapons, you can just put the forces block on your weapon palette of the ranger weapon.
Very true, but I'm planning for the future when I have to juggle weapons with different potentials and whatnot.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting, right? When you think about like the possibilities of the multi-weapon and stuff, like how much do you guys think they're going to deviate from, you know, just a multi-weapon to having actual weapons with like individualized specialties?
I think there's going to be like a mix, well, in a perfect world, there'll be a mix where like if you get this weapon, you do some unique stuff, like how there was like certain weapons in PSO2 that would like adjust how PA worked a little bit. They might avoid that because whenever they did that, it was just super broken though. So I wouldn't be surprised if they don't bring it back. But if they do try it again, I think it'll be like, oh, so this weapon can do this, but you know, you still have the multi-weapon. So depending on how you want to play the game, you can pick what weapon you.
See, Bob, when you say that about like base PSO2, I think the biggest problem with that system in base PSO2 is the fact that we don't have enough options.
Yeah, there's like only like
there's only like
one option for it, like
yeah, which of course makes it super broken because you get to only choose one option, right? Instead of, for example, like, you know, if you think about PA crafting, even for example, right? Instead of having multiple options, you have only one, so it's like
yeah, and I also think. If we did have more weapon choices for like changing PAs, it would make some interesting, like, you know, weapon swapping, like swap to this to use this PA really quick and then swap back to use this other variant of a PA.
I already do that in PSO2, so it would be normal to me in NGS.
Yeah.
Well, usually you do like the same weapon. Like you swap the palette to go to like different PAs, but what I'm saying is like two different weapons.
Yeah, I gotcha.
You know, this weapon changes this PA one way, and then this other weapon changes another PA.
I go pretty extra on Ranger. I really do. I start with rifle, and then when my PP is very, very low, I switch to the launcher because the launcher has an S5 that gives you a close in person. It's like a shotgun attack, but it only uses one PP and does like a mil damage. And if you dodge into an enemy attack, it's called Fiery Zero on Japan.
Oh, that launcher.
If you dodge into an enemy attack, it resets it. So you can do these really sick things where you're coming out of an impact slider from a rifle, knowing that you're going to switch to the launcher, knowing that you're going to get the dodge, and then have the perfect amount of PP left, that's one, to hit the launcher. And then after that, you can go into the complex, come out of the complex, and then switch to a lightstream rifle or something immediately to refill. It's nuts that you can do that multi-weapon even back in PSO2. And I'm just salivating at the thoughts of now using multi-weapons while also swapping between multi-weapons.
Literally.
On New Genesis.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very good point too, Cam, because you as a Destiny player, you love those exotics.
Yeah, those exotics in Destiny, it's like the similar thing to potentials in PSO2. They change up gameplay a lot, and RC knew that, which is why he wanted me to have the Fiery Zero launcher early in. That's exactly what it felt like, a Destiny exotic.
Yeah, which comes back to the point, right, where I think that if we have like multiple options rather than just one, I think it'll be perfectly balanced because you get to choose and then you can weigh your options, you know, and then it's like, oh, this playstyle is good for me, that playstyle is good for me and stuff like that. But then you have to kind of balance it in a way where everything is viable.
Yeah.
I think that'll be a very fun, perfect world per se.
To call back to the JA circles, like that little gameplay I described of swapping weapons and whatnot, also having to pay attention to the JA circles and then get rewarded for hitting those circles within a combo string is so satisfying. And while I appreciate that exists, I also appreciate that NGS is making it a little more accessible so that my friends who maybe would have been intimidated by a fighting game combo string just like looking at the bright lights and cool numbers that pop up on NGS.
Yeah, I agree. I think overall it's a really interesting direction that a lot of us are just having like the Phantasy Star shock right now because this is something that they, you know, literally have not done, right? So that's just one thing where it's just very, very interesting to look forward to the future. And that's just, yeah.
The biggest combat game changer, RC, was using the environment around me
to
get
Lord.
Proper angles.
Yes.
It's like you see this tree or something, and you can wall kick off the tree to then be over an enemy's exposed back. That is something I don't get in PSO2, and like the trade-off of a JA circle for that might be equal to me.
Yeah, dude, Cam, I just remember now because like back in our very first run when we did the tower, the very first run, you were so excited because you got the boss down, right? And then you're like, oh no, the core's so high. But then you double jump, wall kicked into the spread shot, which moves you back to the perfect distance to do your photon blast and everything. That's like, oh.
And it was a weapon swap photon blast. So it went from a ranger to a force photon blast on a quick weapon swap.
Yeah.
So yeah, it looks like the NGS still maintains some of PSO2's magic. That combat complexity. Like seriously, I had a Sodom fight the other day where I felt like every combo string was hit, every invincibility frame was hit, and I kept in mind all my damage boosters like the sharpshooter and standing snipe and stuff, and I can't get that in any other game. I really can't. And those little moments make PSO2 and I guess New Genesis in the future hella worth playing.
But regardless of what, though, I feel like the Sodom fight, right, was like the very beginning of, you know, using the environment to your advantage. Like, you know, you have these attacks where you have to hide behind the rocks and stuff. I feel like it's a recurring theme that will appear in New Genesis a lot.
I was just thinking about it. For EQs on New Genesis, since we were talking about PSO2, it made me think of like some ideas. It's like, I hope there's not just only boss EQs in New Genesis. I hope there's like, you know, you're at the city and there's an EQ there, and you like go to the EQ and it's like a city defend the city from like mobs, like kind of tower defense kind of.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
Buster Quest and NGS.
Oh no! I'm kind of scared now. But yeah, no, real talk though, I'm actually really excited. I think that's such a cool concept.
Yeah, I hope that there's like unique kind of EQs, not just boss fights.
Yeah. And then also, as Karo said at the very beginning, right, I think it would be a really, really nice thing if we can have multiple ways to really just play the end game, because if the end game loop is literally just going to be us running around in circles, then it's kind of just like,
Yeah, it's a callback to free fields on PSO2 where the ultra hard free fields instantly died after the first one was released. Like, they released the second one and no one was playing it. Like, everyone was like, nah, I don't think I'll run around in circles again for 10 hours. That was kind of boring. So I hope there's like a lot of variety in like, I hope they like add a quest person where there's like unique kind of, you know, even if it's like they put it like virtual reality quest, like there's this like callbacks to like the limited quest we have in PSO2 where it's run from point A to B fast as possible, and you know, maybe give it like a unique looking place like a volcano look or something. I think some of those quests should be added. I think the open world should just be considered the free field, and then there's actually like some better quests.
I do agree. Which kind of makes me think like, you know, because like they already have these Cocoon as like more instance quests and stuff like that. I do hope that more Cocoons in the future will have more interesting aesthetics and not just, you know, the blue walls and stuff.
Yeah, hopefully.
But yeah, anyways, if anyone on my channel has watched me for a really long time, all of my live streams and everything, I always say a lot that I generally dislike open world games, because I feel like one of the things about open world is like, you kind of get really bored of like the world sometimes when you played it for like, I don't know, 1,000, 2,000 hours and you just have to go to the same place over and over again. But personally for me, I kind of felt that way a lot when I played stuff like, you know, the other games like say Genshin, or even like stuff like Kingdoms of Amalur and stuff. It's an open world, but I feel like it's an open world where it's super structured, so to say. You know what I mean? But in New Genesis, I feel like whatever I see, I can go to. And it feels a lot more freeform than the other open worlds that I have experienced so far, even though it's just a little bit. But that feeling of freedom and that sense of thing is something that I feel like I couldn't just find in the other games.
One thing I would like to say that might be helping you is a lot of the other open world games, you kind of move, you know, you have fast travel, but moving through the world is kind of slow. But NGS is, you know, you can scale a mountain super quick without having to wait to like climb it or something with a stamina gauge. You just hop up it and be like, oh, cool. And then you just on your way. It's really fast paced and like, you know, it's just running your lot. Like, it doesn't feel as big as it is because you're just moving through it. You can move through it so fast. I think that's one of the great features about it is you don't have to take 10 years to get to a spot. You can just go run up it real quick, look at it and say, oh, this was cool. And you're never going to say, oh, this was a waste of time, because you didn't spend like 10 minutes trying to get to it to have nothing there. And usually there's a red box there, like we mentioned before.
Yeah. One of the things that I kind of like found when I was playing with Cammy, right, is like we would argue a lot. We would argue like a lot about like, dude, Cam, do we want to like teleport over there because we gotta go there, or do you want to just go on feet? And we just like look at each other every time we're like, yeah, let's just go on feet.
Yeah, we only got to experience the beta once, you know, so gotta go on foot to see what random cool Easter egg we bump into, or like we stumble onto an otter. That was pretty cool.
Oh my god, that was a big highlight of me too.
Going on feet is also kind of nice, because especially like if you look out for like where materials are, you just find some materials like, oh, there's materials here, so I'll come back to this one day. I remember you guys thinking I was like a wizard, because I was like, oh, here's materials, oh, here's some materials, oh, there's materials here.
You had the farming route down, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think Bob was a wizard when I was like, hey, Bob, I need these materials. I don't know which one it is. And you're like, oh, the red ores. I got you. Follow me. And like, bang, 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 bang. I was just like, how? How do you know this? The game's only been out for like 2 days. What is it?
My man's had the GPS.
Right?
Yeah.
That was a pretty WTF moment. I was like, dang, this guy knows his stuff.
see that's also one more thing that I really do want to give the feedback to, is like I want a ping system, or like at least like a pin like a map pin system where you can just like pin stuff in the map, or just like also a ping system where you can be like, yo, you can go over here, and you just ping it on the map, you know?
Yeah, like open the map and you just ping it and your teammates can see it. Also, another like feedback thing is, please make it easier to find your teammates in the open world. If they're like not in the section you're at, you can't really like at least put a marker of where they're at in terms of what section. I know it says in the like bottom left, but I can't read Japanese right now, so please put a ping system.
Not even that. It's we would have to communicate between each other what section of the map we're in. Like we're on 3F, the bottom right corner of 3F.
Yeah, you should really be.
Then they say, oh, it should just be a node there or something.
Yeah, just show where basically just show where your party is. Like put it like on the map or something. Like put a little dot. Like make the dot like change color if you're like in this section, maybe. Like
it already kind of does that in PSO2 as it stands. Everyone on their HUD is a different color, and then on the map, they're just a dot of that color.
Yeah. So what I'm saying basically is, if you're in a section that I can't access, say you're in a 32 out of 32 exploration area, it should show that you're in an area that I'm not.
Makes sense.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then once I enter the area you're in, it just changes, like maybe make it a little bit brighter to show, oh, we're in the same area now.
Yeah, I understand. So there's a bit more like quality of life things here and there.
Yeah.
Which is nice. Yeah. There's still a lot of things, of course, that can be added and also perfected, which honestly is one of the things that I really do appreciate about the beta, is that we can, you know, talk to you guys, the community, and also all of us content creators, and we just talk to each other and be like, hey, you know, I think this can be improved, yada 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 yada, and then all of this, and then the devs are also like watching our videos and stuff, and they're like, yo, that's a really good idea. Cough cough. Yeah. yeah, that. But yeah, I think it's a really nice thing where, you know, we can really just like send in feedback before the whole game is released and everything. And yeah, which is one of the things I really do appreciate from all you guys, all my viewers, everyone's viewers actually, because on my live streams, right, I was asking throughout Cammy's chat, throughout my chat and everything, of like feedback on how you guys would like to see the world expand, for example. And then a majority of you guys literally just polled that, hey, we think that expanding to new planets would be a very Phantasy Star thing. And then that's one of the things that I'm putting on the feedback form back to the devs, where, you know, a lot of my community and Cammy's community and like all these people, we think that, you know, the worlds should be more like expanded towards like different planets and stuff too. So because that's a very Phantasy Star thing, right? So I think that's very, very valuable feedback. And it's a very cool thing that our community is just so tight-knit that we can have moments like these where we ask all of you what feedback you guys would like to give to, you know, the devs and stuff. And then we as content creators also do the same thing. And it just creates like a really nice environment and world where all of us can just really help create this world together as it grows. And I think of like NGS, say, a few years down the line. Like, think about all the feedback, all the information, all the data that the devs are getting from just us playing the game over and over, and really just listening to the feedback and really improving on the things that the players want to be improved on and stuff. I feel like it's going to be an absolutely wonderful gaming experience for just about everyone, and it really feels like a community, and that's unique.
I do think we are going to get new planets, because based on what we saw so far, we have forest, tundra, volcano, and desert, and the planet we are now. And when you kind of look at the map, you kind of can see in the general direction of where the things are going to be placed. And you know, I don't want to say anything too much, but I kind of seen a map of it already. But anyways, but yeah, there's like a lot of areas to be expanded on the planet, and then once the planet's completed, we'll go to the next planet, or maybe let's go to the next planet before we complete a planet. I don't know, but you know, maybe like bring out more areas and new planets.
Yeah, the thing with like the different planets is, I was talking with my chat and stuff. They think that having different planets can have like different rules as well. For example, maybe like this planet have a different rule of gravity, so like the gameplay is completely different and stuff.
Going to the moon.
I don't know how like feasible that kind of thing is, but honestly, I think that would be really, really cool. What do you think, Haro? Isn't that like super anime?
It is. I think that's a great idea, to be honest. And it's like the different planets have like ranging difficulties as well. Maybe you have like more rare drop rate in this place, but like there's a, you know, it's a time attack planet. You know, everything is like you only have a limited amount of oxygen, so you have to complete the mission in 10 minutes and return back to base or something.
Oh, that sounds
you know,
so cool.
It opens up
that sounds awesome.
endless possibilities. You can do so much stuff.
I swear to God, if they put that in my PSO2, I'm gonna punch someone.
Right? But like it adds so much more possibilities, and like, you know, I feel like it's great because the more variety, the more choices players have, the better it's gonna be, in my personal opinion.
PSO has a setting where I'm never surprised at whatever situation my character lands. I could be in Vegas fighting the, you know, chainsaw clowns and not blink an eye.
I actually just thought of an interesting question for everyone. If there was a new planet, what kind of like setting would you like to see? Because if I were to say one, it would like, I would want to see go to a planet that's like just like, you know, big city and like ruins. Like there's no like human life left on the planet. It's like an ancient planet that's just been like.
If we're going off canon, that's gonna be Florida.
Hey,
Yikes.
But there's like a planet, you know, there you can tell there was like civilization there, but it's just gone and it's just infested with like monsters now or something.
Florida.
Basically, man.
I understand. It would be a really interesting thing for like, you know, plot progression and stuff.
And you're like, when you run around, you see like maybe like a big border and like a big crater, and it kind of tells a story of its own, like what happened here. A planet like that would be nice.
Hey, that happened in episode 1 and 2.
Dude, telling the story from just exploring the world alone is like context within the exploration. I think that's super cool. But yeah, I digress a little bit, only because like I don't want to go off, you know, the topics a little bit too much, because that's like we can probably talk about possibilities for like days. So yeah, that's very something that's like super exciting. As you guys can all listen to us just talk about this stuff, we're super excited about NGS. Like honestly, for me, generally, like at the very beginning, right, I was just thinking like, you know, maybe I'm not gonna play NGS that much because we already have base PSO2 and I love base PSO2. But then after the NGS beta, I kind of had to reconsider myself.
Yeah, I big feel that. I thought it was gonna be 80-20. Now it's 50-50.
But yeah, on that topic though, Bob, because you were talking about like storytelling and just like how maybe we can like also move on to like different planets and things like that. One of the biggest topics that I personally wanted to bring up and just talk about, well, kind of like a roundtable discussion and all of you guys viewing this as well and stuff. Let's have a big discussion, right? Of how do we feel about the identity of Phantasy Star Online 2? Right? Because that's one of the, I feel like is one of the biggest things where when you think back to PSO2 and its timeline, right, is that we had episode 1 to 3, which is cohesive. Okay, that's like one story. And then suddenly there's like a whole change of like scenery, whole change of everything in episode 4. And it's like, whoa, that's a complete change. And then suddenly after that's done, episode 5, whoa, that's another complete change. And then now episode 6, we're back into space. It's like they're trying to bring everything back together. And it's like, it feels a little weird, you know? To me personally,
what I think the biggest thing for that was I think episode 4 and 5 they were trying to attract new players, but I think they realized it didn't work that well. So when they probably decided at episode 4 or maybe sooner than that this wasn't working out to get new players, and they wanted to bring back. I remember them saying on the live stream that they're going to focus on bringing back older players that used to play but don't play anymore.
Yes.
So I think the whole going back to space thing was a attempt at pulling old players back into the game, because that's really what a lot of Phantasy Star fans liked, was the sci-fi of the game. And when we went to like, you know, Earth wasn't too bad in terms of sci-fi, but when we went to like medieval things, I think a lot of people got turned off about that because that's not very sci-fi.
Yeah. See, Caro, I think you can actually add into this really, really well, because like, you know, you're a big advocate for games like, you know, like Genshin and stuff, where, for example, in Genshin, you play it for like that one theme that it has, right? It has like this one aesthetic, it has this one like holistic thematic, you know, everything that just puts the game together and stuff. And then you particularly told me sometimes back as well when we had a chat that you personally really like episode 4 because, you know, you're into that like super anime stuff. Like, how did it feel when you had that like whole episode 4 thing and then suddenly you shifted to like this medieval thing? It's like, what?
It was okay. So my personal perspective, I enjoyed it. I like when I went into episode 5, I wish I recorded it, but my entire alliance was in chat when we were doing the story. We did it together, and we were all like, orc, what's going on, what's this? And then like we were all super duper excited about it because it was just so out of left field, right? We were just like, what is this, what is going on? And I think that surprise element was very refreshing because, you know, in episode 1 to 3 I was just like, oh, we're in space, you know, it's all right. But, you know, I'm not a sci-fi type of guy. It was just kind of like, oh, I like the game itself. So the story, I'll watch it because I want to know what's going on, but it's not really my jam. Then episode 4, we got Isekai, and I was like, all right, we're heading towards the right direction. I like Isekai. And then episode 5 was just like, oh, we're in the middle of nowhere now. Oh, look, there's an orc. Oh, we gotta kill dragons. Yes. You know, that was more relatable to the content that I like to play or the games that I like to play. So I enjoyed it. I know it's not popular opinion, but I enjoyed it. And then when episode 6 came in, I liked how they linked episode 5 with episode 6 with the whole, can we speak spoilers here since the game is so old?
Yeah, go ahead. It's fine, but okay. This is a spoiler warning, okay? For anyone who doesn't, I'll have like a certain like timestamp or whatever if you don't want spoilers.
Okay, so like I like how they tied the whole Harriet thing with the Shiva thing in episode 5 to 6, and then I was just like, oh, that's actually really smart. And then even though episode 6 was back into sci-fi and space and everything, because I was so invested in the characters in episode 5. I was like, this is fine. I don't care. Shiva's waifu. I like it. And then, you know, I was sold on the idea because I was just like, yeah, I like the story now. You've got my attention. I'm going to watch through all of this. I'm going to play through all of it. But, you know, pulling myself back to the question at hand with New Genesis, I feel like the developers are taking a risk, but they're taking a risk in the right direction, where it's like, you know, the main complaint that a lot of people have, at least that my viewers have with PSO2 is, first of all, the UI is really clunky and is very old-fashioned, and augmenting and affixing is, you know, too big brain for them and for me. But another thing was, you're trapped on the ship. There's no sense of exploration. I can't even go explore, like, where our rooms are, right? You know how we can go to our personal quarters, you just teleport there? Why can't I see everyone's personal quarters? There needs to be, like, you know, a gigantic lobby area where I can go check out random people's rooms or something. It feels too confined. It feels very claustrophobic, and I don't like that. And being in NGS where it's just like, here's Central City. You can go wherever you want. And then after finding out that, hey, in the beta, what we explored is only like 1/10 of that world. It's just like, wow, I'm really excited because I like being free to explore the world, to look at, get really nice screenshots, to climb mountains, go into deep caverns and caves, and just explore and see what's going on. I really enjoy that type of aspect. And so that's my 2 cents.
Mm-hmm. But unlike the thematical aspect, like do you feel like, PSO2 NGS having that identity of just being a super free thing is like just an overarching theme as opposed to, having just being like sci-fi and everything? Or do you feel like there should be like a specific like, continuing theme, like, oh, this is like we're fighting space aliens, or like we're fighting natives, or we're fighting, or do you only care just about like the holistic?
I don't really mind whatever directions the developers go, to be honest, because I've kind of just embraced the fact that the story and like the whole theme of PSO2 is just so wacky. It's just so out there that I kind of just enjoy it, because like you never know what's coming up next, right? When episode 6 came in, I had no idea like what to expect, and the story didn't disappoint, right? So I don't think that the developers should be like, oh no, we need to stick to a certain plan because it works. Like, for example, in the discussion that we had earlier, like the whole episode 1 to 3, like that recipe. Like, yes, it works. Yes, a certain demographic likes it, but at least for me, I kind of just embrace PSO2 for what it is. And it doesn't matter what crazy ideas they have. I kind of think like, oh, that's cool. That's a great idea, I don't know. I don't really judge a game based on its themes that much, as long as I'm sold on something that I like in the game. So in this, it's the combat and the characters. I'm willing to accept anything. Like Genshin Impact. Genshin Impact is notorious for its horrible gacha system, and I accept that. Yes, it's got a horrible cash grab gacha system, but the characters and the theme is nice. I'm invested in the characters. I'm invested in the story. And so I'm more than happy to ignore the bad parts, as long as, it doesn't interrupt what I enjoy out of that game.
Yeah, and I think that like bringing in Genshin as like a case study is actually really interesting, because a lot of my friends also say like, PSO2 New Genesis might just be a, glorified Genshin kind of thing, where it's kind of like different but also very similar, because it's kind of like in the same genre, right, of like open world RPG exploration. I do feel personally like PSO2 can also bring a lot of like good aspects that a lot of the other games do really well. For example, you were saying about like Genshin and like how they sold their characters and the stories and the everything, right? Like personally for me, when I went to New Genesis for the very first time, the very first thing that I really felt that should be a very strong point is the characters in the world. Because, for example, even in regular PSO2, where you really think of like the class trainers and stuff, you would really want the class trainers to be someone super cool that you're like looking up to or something like that, right? But then they just turn out to be some kind of like super generic looking character that doesn't even have like a super cool story or something. And that's really just what makes me feel very like, about New Genesis.
I'd like to say something about Clash Trainer. I think the issue with Clash Trainers right now is we don't know the characters. But I think once story stuff starts coming out, I think people will start liking some of the characters. I think the cast hunter trainer actually looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of generic, because I don't think they want to like... I think they wanted to like just use what they had at the very beginning to make these characters, which they kind of did with PSO2's like starting class characters. But I think as long as they do the story correct, like we were talking about beforehand, like Oza, Marlu didn't really have much impact on the story, and they never got like a new look to them like the other Clash Trainers did, kind of, or like get like an updated look to how Clash Trainers were. I think if there's like story progression on the Clash Trainers, I think they'll be fine. Especially if like, one like episode 1 looks different, and episode 2 the Clash Trainers get like an upgraded look to keep with the times of how players are looking. I think that would tie in a lot. But it's really how they decide the story of the class trainers, I think.
I do agree that that's a really cool thing, but I'm also thinking in terms of like, you know, the marketability and like the presentation wise of these things, right? Because like, for example, when PSO2 NGS Prologue 1 came out, or rather, was it Tokyo Game Show? I'm not entirely sure which one, but the second they revealed Eleanor, which was the Gunner character, dude, the internet blew up. Everyone loved Eleanor, the cast Gunner. Like, all the artists were like religiously drawing her because we loved her design, we loved her look, even though we don't know the story and stuff like that, right? And then I generally thought like, wait, are they actually going to use these characters as like, you know, the class trainer NPCs and stuff? And I'm like, I was kind of honestly really disappointed that they didn't go for that direction. Like, for example, if you think back in PSO2, right, you see these like really cool characters, like for example, Helga, which is the Phantom Girl from the trailer. Like, she was featured really strongly on the trailer. Everyone loved her, but then she didn't exist anywhere in the game, and it kind of feels like, you know, there feels to be like this one disconnect where like, oh, I guess this character is just not in the game, right? And it's not a character. Or like, I thought like stuff like that was really important.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think they should feature them more in the game.
Yeah, and then actually just make the designs like really cool, you know, just like I said, make the characters look a lot more presentable and marketable and like very, very memorable, right?
Yeah.
Like when you see Phantom, like a lot of people would literally just think of Helga because she is the poster girl of the Phantom class.
Yeah, I think like once we see the story, I'll put an actual like opinion on them. Because like if I saw Huey, like he's not a class trainer, but if I saw Huey just standing in the lobby, I would be like, oh, this guy looks really generic. But once I knew his personality and how he like presented himself, he's really memorable to me. Like if you said name a character from PSO2, it's like, oh, Huey. He's like, yeah, you know, everyone knows them.
Yeah, I have to echo those thoughts. The memorable character is definitely something to be sought after in PSO. But the only conflict of interest would be having the NPC more interesting than your own character's creation or story. And PSO has a very unique setting where almost any origin story or type of character look, that type of thing, you can justify it and make it work in PSO. You could be a space wizard with a gun, and that's perfectly canon in the world.
Yeah, for sure. But see, like Cam, on the opposite end of that is that I feel like if the NPCs and stuff look super clean and super good and stuff like that, right? They're like all really loved. They're really like cool design wise and everything. I feel like it's more of an inspiration for players to be like, man, I want to look as cool as, you know, that guy and stuff like that.
Absolutely. I'm on board with that. I want there to be like a mascot character of New Genesis, like the Pikachu, etc. That everyone's just like that PSO character.
I know that Sega can do these great designs. You know, we look at the older Phantasy Star games and then we have all these characters, you know, from, you know, we have Emilia, we have Ethan, we have Karen, we have, and even from like the mobile games, like, you know, we have Jenny, we have Akhtar, we have Stella from Idola, which I love her design to death. And there's just so many like great, memorable looking characters and stuff like that, which I think is amazingly good for the marketing of the game, which, you know, having a lot of these like pop culture influences and like a lot of these artists look at these amazing characters and be like, you know, I love this character, and then they draw it, and then people who don't even know about the game look at these character designs, they're like, man, that looks super cool, and then they look at it and be like, oh, it's from a video game, yo, let's go play that video game because I want to play with this character or something like that, right? I think that's also a magic of it for a lot of the casual audience and stuff.
I'd have to agree. From a marketing perspective, that's a great way to get people into a game. That's how I got into a lot of games.
It's funny that we're talking about marketing because, like, okay, I'm just gonna go straight to loot talk here because or culture talk, sorry. But with Genshin Impact, right? It's very, very clear when they make a character, they have a character for every taste. Whether, you know, you like big butts, it's this character. You like a big chest,
lewd,
it's this character.
Not loot. I thought we were talking looter shooter, but
no.
Shooter.
Sorry. That's why I corrected myself with cultured, just to double down there. But, you know, it's in Genshin Impact, they have a character for every preferred taste. Every cultured person has there's a character for them in Genshin Impact, and it works wonders for marketing because it's just like, oh, this character's coming out limited for 2 weeks, and then everyone's just like, that is my taste right there, and then they spend money, and that's their marketing strategy. Obviously, I don't want Sega to do that. Obviously, I want Sega to make PSO2 New Genesis as successful as possible, and in order to do that, I'm thinking, they should bring back either the memorable characters, like, the couple that RC said, and, sex sells, right? Sex does sell. And if you put some beautiful girls or guys and
hey, I like hot guys.
It will attract people. And I feel like it's not a bad thing because like in Ship 2, at least on the global server, like where I play, we are very openly saying that we're degenerates. We have body pillows. There's weapon camos of body pillows. A freaking genie with like a freaking bikini. It's in the game already. I know it's fine. Sega's like, this is cool. This is cultured. Yeah, we like this. We support this, right?
Yeah, did you know that PSO2's game rating actually went up recently?
It went up to mature, didn't it? Right? Or did it go higher?
Yeah, it started off like PG-13 and then now it's like PG-17.
Right? Oh my goodness.
No. But okay, wait, let me rephrase that, okay?
Yeah.
Instead of saying sex sells, let's take it as aesthetic sell. We like good characters with good designs.
Yes, good character design and memorable character design is always going to trump over everything else because players like myself, the casual player, when we're looking at new games coming out, when we're looking at trailers, we're just looking at character design. If there's someone that we like, we're just like, okay, I'm going to look into that game now. Or if there's gameplay that I like, I'm going to be like, okay, I'm going to do a little bit more research and look into this game. And this is where, I feel like content creators like ourselves can come in because we can show off the gameplay. We can show off the character designs. We can show off a lot more detail compared to Sega where they've only got, 3-minute trailer or like a 5-minute trailer at most. People are going to watch that and be like, I want more information. How do I find more information? And that's where we can step in and we can show people a lot more in-depth stuff of the game so people can be more informed when they download the game and know what to expect.
Yeah, which is why I think, character designs like the Eleanor was super successful because it's super memorable, it's super recognizable, and it's one of those things where it's like, that's a good design, right? Or like even the NGS Rupica. Dude, everyone in the internet was talking about it. Like everyone who's talking about NGS is like, Rupica this, Rupica that, because we just love her design. She's absolutely adorable and she's so memorable.
You wanna know something funny?
Yeah?
The most successful tweet on the Bump Twitter was me posting a picture of Rupica and saying good game.
Yeah, see, characters sell. Good designs is just something people love. And then we look at that and it's like, we want to be that. And then once you be that, you tweak it to whatever you want.
Yeah, when there's good character designs, it shows what kind of characters you can make in the game, basically. And it's like, oh, like you guys were saying, I want to go make a character that's kind of like that. And, since they made it with NPC, I should be able to make it with my actual character.
Exactly.
Sometimes it will take a little bit of time for the NPC's hair to come out because they want it to be unique. But, based on the track record, you're eventually going to be able to make a character that looks like that.
Yeah.
And, maybe you just use a hairstyle that's similar until the one you want comes out.
Like you imagine, right? Because for example, like the Genshin case is like, again, we just bring up Genshin again because it's like one of the cases that we're really familiar with, right? So you think of the Genshin story, it's like it's filled with memorable characters everywhere. But for example, like if I were to ask you to like list me characters that you remember from like episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or like whatever, you'd probably be able to say it's just like, oh, I remember Shiva, I remember Felig, I remember probably like just a very handful. But like for a lot of those games where like you sell the characters and stuff, you can probably list like everyone.
Yeah, that's something that Genshin does really well. They really sell you the character because that's their business model, right? But I feel like the essence of storytelling in Genshin is really good Because, for example, a good example in Genshin was there is this bad guy in Genshin, right? And then so, like, obviously I hated it because it's like, oh, that's the bad guy. They're evil, blah, disgusting. And then they did, like, a side story for that character to learn why they became evil and, like, the human side of this person. And I was like, oh, snap. I actually like this person now. And, you know, that character building was so magical so that you remember every single character in Genshin because of just the storytelling.
Very good insight.
Cammy, do you have anything to add to that? How do you feel about that?
I echo most of what was said here. I definitely like how, like, for example, RC's stream, he has all his different characters in PSO, and we even had this one interaction, if I recall, in Japan server.
Yes.
Where, yeah, I'm going to talk about Chris. Was it Christine? Was it
Christina, something
like that?
Something along those lines. We apologize if you're watching this. I'm so sorry.
Christophine or something like that. So this is this new character. They even had the little new symbol on their name, and we were trying to help them out as, you know, veteran players do. Just, hey, what you need? Why'd you start playing the game, and so forth. And as we started grilling them with questions, they said, oh, I saw this one YouTuber's video and really liked their character design, so I wanted to make a cool character as well. We're like, oh, what content creator? And he goes, Azelyra. And we're sitting there with one of RC's alt characters or something right next to us. And so I'm like, oh, that's awesome. I also like their characters.
and then basically, like, behind the scenes, Cammy's wishing me like, dude, RC, go change to the character on the thumbnail of that video. And then so I did that. And then the guy was freaking out, dude.
It's you. Like, seriously. So I like that PSO has the setting and character creator that you can also have your own memorable character. And I maybe got 2 of those throughout the last year of playing that my Twitch chat is like, yo, Cam, try out the tank maid on this fight. Okay. Like, they don't have to say the tank character. They're very specific. They say the tank maid.
That video was so funny to watch,
they know.
Though. I really enjoyed that video with the tank maid. And the thumbnail, the slap thigh, that was cultured.
But character design-wise, it's kind of funny. Like, every time a new accessory comes out that is like a hexa shield or some sort of defense item, I try to fit it into that character. And moving into NGS, the same thing's going to happen. Where it's like 32-man boss, solo. Can I tank the final smash? The Bujin Dome, etc.
Yeah. I feel like it's a very important thing where it's just us as content creators also creating these, like, characters for, well, quote unquote characters for, like, the world and stuff where people just really look up to it and, you know, be inspired by. And I think it's just the beauty of it where if us and also the officials both just create a world filled with just, like, so many vibrant characters that are so memorable, that are so, like, it creates a really bright spot for New Genesis to be, you know, the shining star where it's like, you see that thing? You can be that.
Yes, that's the recipe for success.
Or like you see, you know, that kind of thing.
There's so many characters in PSO2 base even that I stop dead in my tracks when I'm walking from, like, storage to Dudu or Monica, and I'm like, wait, that character design's awesome. Let me look at that.
Yeah.
And I'll stop and do that. Even the PSO Kami has fantastic characters.
Yeah. Like, we know that Sega can create these, like, memorable characters and stuff, and it's just, I think seeing more of that would be absolutely amazing.
Much agreed.
So I think that that's a really good wrap up to a lot of the things that we do feel that New Genesis can still move forwards to, and also just really improve on towards the next few months before release, right? Because we want to see this game, like, as great as possible. So all of you in the listening in and everything, don't be afraid, by the way, to just, like, leave your comments, leave your everything, to just let us know also, and just start a discussion with us. Like, how do you feel about New Genesis and the direction you're taking, and how do you feel about, like, you know, our topics and how we thought that the game can be improved on and stuff? I think that's a very, very cool thing to just talk about as a community. Like I said earlier, right, that we're such a tight-knit community that, you know, the devs, the team, the community, everything is, like, even watching our videos, or, like, even just might be talking with all of us right now in, like, you know, the community and everything. I think it's such a wonderful thing.
For sure. The question that burns in my mind is, how can PSO New Genesis lead with its best foot forward, its best impression for the gaming population that doesn't know it's their favorite game yet?
Yeah. Because after all, right, you don't get a second chance. I can't even speak. You don't get a second chance to make a good first impression. And I think that's very, very important. Because especially nowadays where it's a world where all of us are just like, yo, man, what's this game? What's that game? People don't have like the time span or like the attention span rather to even think about like all the stuff. They just look at that and it's like, if that looks amazing, that looks cool, and they try it out and they love it, then great. But if they try it out and they're like, man, I'm going to sleep, then they're probably not going to play it again.
Yeah, it's like some of those, like, it was like a few years ago when there was like this a bunch of buggy games getting released. I guess today's thing would be like 2077. The first impression is like, players will play your game at first, and if it's like complete like garbage, they're just going to remember it as garbage. They're not going to go back to it. Even if someone tells them, this got a lot better, it's like, nah, I'll just keep playing my game.
I think a really good case of stuff like that is like the No Man's Sky.
That's what
where they promised such a really good concept, right? And then even now, like the game, I heard from a lot of people that the game's actually really, really good now. But
yeah, I'm not going to play that.
You think back to the very initial things of that.
Yeah, a lot of people aren't just willing to, give it a second chance because there's just so many other games you can play. It's like, why bother?
Yeah. Which actually brings back around to like a very interesting point, because again, we're moving into New Genesis and everything now, right? It's like we're kind of sending off PSO2, so I kind of just want to like throw back a little bit, and I'm gonna start with you, Caro. Like, how did you get into Phantasy Star Online 2 in the first place? Like, what actually drew you in? I'm actually really curious.
I watched Cryfu. He's another YouTuber that unfortunately he stopped doing YouTube, but he was playing Phantasy Star Online 2 on the Xbox days, and I was watching him play, and I had no idea what he was doing, right? And he was just like wandering around in the lobby, but he was always having a good time, and I was just like, man, I wish I could have a good time, because back then I was like hardcore MMO raiding only, and things it wasn't fun for me, right? Because you guys know me as the super casual player, and there's a reason, there's some history behind this, and this is because if we rewind 4 or 5 years back, I was working a full-time job, 9 to 5, and on top of that I was managing a guild and being a raid leader. And so it was a lot of work. I was waking up at like 5 in the morning to do raids, and then immediately rushing off to work right after the raid, coming back and making content for the YouTube channel. And it really burnt me out, right? And I know we'll talk about burnout later down in this podcast, but because of that, when I finally dropped that MMO due to NCSoft not being very good, I was looking for another MMO, and it just so happened that PSO2 was being released on the Microsoft Store. And so I was like, all right, sure, I remember Cryfu always having fun playing this game. So I downloaded it, and, a bunch of my Alliance members or my guild members joined me when we transferred over. And when I first played it, I was like, okay, the game looks a little bit old, but the combat is fun, and the movement is responsive. And so I just slowly started playing it, and then I got bombarded with questions. I had so many questions from people asking me like, how is this game? How, X class, Y class, and like all these different gears and like skill trees. And I was just like, you know what? I'm curious myself. I'm going to find out. And so I started making content for the game. I wasn't picked up on YouTube till maybe like 4 months into content creation of daily uploads for 4 months of PSO2 content before people started to notice that, hey, this Karopi guy is actually making PSO2 content now. So I think just from that process, it kind of drew me in, because I just wanted to learn more, because there was a driving force, right? People were asking me questions, and I personally was curious, and I was like, oh, that's a great question. Let's find out together. And that's always been my approach. If I don't know the answer of something, I'll tell them that I don't know, but we can try to find out together. I always like that approach. But that's how I got in.
Yeah. And then because of all that, right? And then you've played PSO2 throughout all this time and everything. And also that's same for you too, Cam. Like ever since you came in, you played through all this. Like how did you feel when you first saw that New Genesis was going to be a thing? The trailer literally dropped out of nowhere. Absolutely nobody expected that. How was it?
Cautiously optimistic is the word I'd use to describe it for me. Because I waited 8 years to play PSO2, and nothing can top that. From giving up on that game entirely to at E3 hearing the fanfare horns of the PSO theme. You heard that first opening note and you're like, no way. And it was PSO2 for North America, for global.
Mm-hmm.
So when I heard New Genesis, it was still exciting, but by comparison, not even close.
Mm. How about you, Caro? How do you feel about that?
I was pretty excited, to be honest, because that was the main thing that a lot of my friends didn't. Main reason why a lot of my friends didn't want to play PSO2. It wasn't because the gameplay wasn't fun. It wasn't because of, whatever. It was mainly the graphics. That was the number one reason people were like, no, Carol, I'm not going to play that game. I'm playing Black Desert because my waifus look more beautiful there. And I'm like, fair enough, right? And a lot of people just played other MMOs simply because their characters look better. Because, it has Unreal Engine 4, it has, all these other bells and whistles, and the characters just look prettier, the graphics look nicer, and there's a lot more eye candy.
They clearly never seen RC screenshots. I'm totally not shouting myself out.
But, because of that, when New Genesis got announced, I was like, alright, that's pretty cool, so show me the game. And then, we got a little bit of gameplay from, like, all the different classes. And I was like, okay, show me the Braver. And, I was greedy, right? Because I'm a greedy person. I was just like, give me more, right? And I was just like, all right, so that's it, right? That's the game? And then, then they gave a little bit more detail about, like, hey, this is an open world. Then I was like, okay. Instantly I thought, Genshin Impact. Give me Genshin Impact, but PSO2, like, universe and no cash grab. That would be the perfect game for me, right? And then they introduced, like, all the different monsters and stuff. Then I was thinking, like, Monster Hunter. Yeah, give me Monster Hunter. And so my brain kind of just went wild. Like, I'm very easily excited. You just show me some eye candy and I'm just like, let's go. I'm ready, right? So I wasn't cautious at all because I go into all these games blind. Like, I never even heard of PSO2 till, like, the Microsoft Store told us, like, oh, it's coming out, like, at the end of the week or next month or whatever, right? Because I'm just not educated in this world or well-versed in the world of Phantasy Star. And I think that's the main difference between me and you guys. You guys are all or Phantasy Star veterans. Like, you've been following the Dreamcast days and all that. I never had a Dreamcast. I had a Super Nintendo, and then I had a Sega Saturn, and then I jumped to PlayStation, and then I just stuck with PlayStation, and I never got any other consoles. So I never played those games, and so my perspective is very different because I don't expect anything. I just wait for the product to come out and I just play it, right? But if you want to hype me up, yes, feel free to release trailers and information and I will be hyped. That's just how I see things.
Yeah, though, Kara, you're wrong about one thing. Phantasy Star Online 2 is my first game, so I'm not technically a Phantasy Star veteran. Only a PSO2 one. I don't even have consoles. You had consoles.
Oh, true. I'm old, man.
It's old. Okay. I digress on that. But yeah, like I feel like something about seeing New Genesis as, like, an older Phantasy Star Online 2 player just, like, reignited something in me. I just felt like, man, all my hard work and everything, I feel like it didn't amount to nothing, because, like, for example, you think about all these, like, 8 years, 9 years we've been playing and stuff, and then it's like, oh, I guess they're releasing PSO3 now, so everything I did is, like, gone, right? But no! New Genesis is just like, yeah, so, all your characters, all your everything, all the fashion that you've been having all over the years, even your weapons and stuff, they're gonna go through. I'm just, at that point, I'm just like, yeah.
I was about to bring that up if you didn't because that was the biggest.
At that point to me, Cam, I was just like, my eyes are tearing, my mouth is drooling, my everything is just like exploded. I was just like,
I went through so many different emotions, like all the different stages, because this is after a year of just hard grinding global. I seriously, every PSO2 day, I must have pulled a 24-hour stream. And so we see this new Genesis trailer, and I'm like, no, we didn't just grind a year for it to already be done. Oh wait, it's interconnected, we're good.
yeah. And then that one piece of thing that just connects everything is just like, what? You know, and you talk about this and like RuneScape 3 a lot, where, well, you can probably explain the RuneScape thing like a lot better.
Yeah, okay, so back in the day, RuneScape 2 added this new combat system and updated the game. That updated game was called RuneScape 3. But it turns out that at least half of the community didn't like the new combat system and left the game. And so they couldn't just revert the combat system back down. Instead, they re-released the old combat system of RuneScape and called that version Old School RuneScape. But you had to start from scratch. You couldn't use your old character. And so even though they did recover a lot of their player base, there were players like me that at the time were just too much into adult college type things and just didn't have the time to grind RuneScape. But PSO2 New Genesis avoids that by just saying, no, both are interconnected. You can choose to play both with your character, most importantly.
So it's like new players into New Genesis can also, you know, go back to the history books and be like, yo, let's experience everything that PSO2 had, if they were interested in that.
And I'm really grateful at Global's accelerated pacing of the 8 years of content in 1 year, because I feel like RC can point to any part of history in PSO2 and I can somewhat understand where he's coming from, whereas previously I would have no idea.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
The only thing you could point to that you wouldn't know is, RC, do you remember the old run speed in PSO2?
Oh my god! No, but Cammy did have a little bit of taste of that, because I actually taught Cammy how to do alley canceling dash in. Yep.
Lobby action cancel, yeah.
Yeah, because the run speed back then was so horrendous that you literally just had to like dash with daggers to even have like a semblance of any good speed.
I miss those days, absolutely.
Yeah, it's crazy in an action RPG, right? That speed was a issue early on, but I'm glad that it picked it up, because when you're zooming in PSO2, it feels really good.
It wasn't really that speed was the issue. It was that the speed options you had with like all the like animation canceling you could have done was just, you just went so fast. Like there's like, so it was called a double canceling, triple canceling, and there's like quadruple canceling.
Quad dashing, yep.
There was a lot of inputs at once though. I never did quad because I didn't have the ping for it.
Dude, I did quad dashing, 5 dashing, everything, dude. I tried. It's like I do that, and I do time attacks on like 4, 5, 6 characters every day, massively just quad dashing my way through. Like, how do you think like my fingers are?
You don't have them anymore.
I tried to learn it for posterity. I said, you know what? If they had to learn this in the past to compete, I'm gonna try to learn this right now and see how I do.
Yeah, no, it was dark times. It was the very dark times.
But I could do it.
But yeah, it's one of those really cool things, right? Where, Cammy, you were also talking about like pointing out points and things here and there in like PSO2 history and stuff like that. And I would just like to give a small shout out to the very final PSO2 dev livestream from the Japan side, which is called PSO2 Station, which it was the last one now, because, you know, we're moving into New Genesis and it's going to be New Genesis Station instead of PSO2 Station. But like that live stream just had like the whole wall of history of PSO2, and then Cammy was just sitting there like, wow, you know. And it's just more impressive, like you said, that Global managed to like condense that entire wall of 8 years into literally 1 year. And it's just
everything they were talking about, I understood. I'm like, hey, I know what piece of content that is.
Yeah, and it's just absolutely crazy.
And it's funny seeing some of the old skits they did, but
right
now knowing what content that was for.
Yeah, and then you finally got to see all these people that made all these lobby actions, right? You know, like the Enomoto lobby actions.
Yes, that's the biggest thing. All these lobby actions and cosmetics and stuff that I was enamored over the year. And I finally see the origin of those.
Yeah. And then you also see how all these lobby actions are actually like actual motion captured and stuff. That's just is absolute magic.
Some of those wink wink nudge nudge I want to see in global.
But hey, I mean, imagine, right? If we have like the global team as well have their own lobby actions and stuff, that just adds so much more personality also.
Oh, that would be sick.
I would love to see that so much. That would be absolutely amazing. But yeah, just to round up everything, like since you also mentioned a little bit earlier, also Caro, about like burnout and everything, because I'm pretty sure like you guys on global will actually have to experience this thing called burnout, right? I feel like burnout is this word that people always use all the time, right? For just about everything. Like when you do something a lot, it's just burnout. I don't know why. Maybe it's just me personally, but I feel like the word burnout is just like it's so overused. I feel like it's, how do you say it? I feel like there's better ways to describe it.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's just a general cap for like, you kind of know what it means, but it's also like, you can use it in different ways. Like, it basically means stuff like, you could say, oh, I'm just bored of this, or I'm just tired of doing this. Like, kind of capped for that. It's like, there's an easy way to explain you don't want to play something anymore. I think the word serves its purpose for the most part. But speaking of burnout, I honestly think if I sat here grinding PSO2 every day, I think even if I burnt out on PSO2, I think if New Genesis came out, I think I would not be burnt out because it's a completely new game basically. I think there's no like possibility in my life where like I would just being burnt out on PSO2 would make me not play MGS.
Yeah, I agree because so the thing about New Genesis, right? It's something new, and so this is something that's different between a lot of people from the West and the people and I don't players from the East, like I don't yes, from the East. But so a lot of players in the West have a lot shorter attention span when it comes to new content, and they like to do everything like in really high intensity bursts, while at least like myself, I like to pace myself. I prefer to pace myself over a long period of time, such as grinding for like my Klaus units, The Klaus units, I was like, all right, once Divide Quest came out, I was like, I'll play one Divide Quest every week, and by the time they come out, I'll have enough modules, right? While a lot of my Alliance members or a lot of my friends or people that I know were like, the moment they heard Klaus units were going to be released, in like the next 3 days, they didn't sleep. They just did Divide Quest over and over and over until they got sick of Divide Quest.
Oh my god.
And then they were like, after those 3 days, I was like, hey, I'm doing my weekly Divide Quest again. Does anyone want to join me? Silence. Everyone's dead. Because they're just like, no, we've done 3 days of Divide Quest already. I don't want to touch another one. And that happened with True Profound Darkness. When that first came out on the global server, my alliance was ballistic. We spent like 5,000 star gems each buying all the triggers from the Fresh Find shop. And we just ran that nonstop. And I was busy because when TBD came out, it just so happened to overlap with New Genesis, the closed beta. And so my alliance was going ballistic doing TBD while I was playing New Genesis and getting footage and stuff. And then by the time I came back, which was like 3 days only, my entire alliance was dead. They were just like, no more TBD, please. And it's the difference in mentality, People at least from my experience, people in the West are a lot more inclined to do high intensity, burn through as much content as possible, burn through everything that's new within the first week. That's the majority of the players. While my mentality as a casual player is, I'm going to play when I feel like it. When I don't feel like it, I don't care. I don't care if you released Divide Quest or you released TBD. I don't care. I'm just going to play when I want to play it. And that's a different mental, I think, between the West and the East, which is why burnout is a lot more of a common phrase, especially like with Western players.
Now here's a very interesting point, right? Because we're going about all this and everything, and you were talking very specifically about pacing, which when New Genesis comes out, all the global players are going to have to be on that pacing of JP, where everyone is just, we have new content and we're just waiting for, the next piece of content, which is going to be like 10 times slower probably than what you're used to right now with this super accelerated pace of global. How do you feel players will actually like...
I'm full-time and I can't keep up, so if that's saying anything.
Yeah, but like, Kara, how do you feel that like players are going to like, adjust to the new pacing and mindset? Like, do you think that's going to be a problem moving forward at all, or like...
I think so. I personally think so, because like, I can only speak for the casual players, all right? I don't want to step on anyone's toes and like, blah blah blah, but as a casual player, we don't have a very long attention span. The reason why I play Genshin Impact every day is because Genshin Impact has dailies, which gives me premium currency. There's a catch there, because it gives me premium currency and I don't want to spend real life money in order to pull my favorite characters. So that's why I log on every single day. But in PSO2, there is no catch. If I want to farm star gems, I can do that. I can do it all in like a week. I can finish every activity, and then I wait for a month until the next thing updates, or I wait for the weekly to update, and then I get more star gems, right? But other than that, people just don't have the attention span. Like, if there's nothing new every week, every 2 weeks, every month, people are going to drop the game, or they're not going to come back. They're going to burn through everything that's available in the first week, and then they're going to be just, waiting room, we're waiting for the next new thing, because that's exactly what happened with 90% of the people that I know that play PSO2, that play the game like as a main game. They just go boom, 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 boom. Oh, I'm done. Okay, time to work on my side games, or time to work on my mobile games, so forth and so on. While I do understand where Cammy's coming from, but that's because Cammy has it's a different mental state, right? Cammy, you really enjoy.
Yeah, I can elaborate on that.
Yeah,
it's like a totally different player demographic.
Mm-hmm.
Me and my friend Drewski, who's also a Destiny content creator, we had to sit down and talk about this for a long time, because in the Destiny community, we were trying to come up with a definition of what is a hardcore player. Because no matter what the general populace seemed to come up with for an answer between our Twitch chat and YouTube comment section, we felt like we didn't apply, but in the other direction. Like, we went beyond that. We play that high intensity forever. We go for full game mastery, not just to complete content. And so after a lot of that initial content rush is done, that's when we breathe and finally feel like we can play the game, if that makes sense. We can take all those things we learned throughout that and apply it with new builds.
Yeah.
Chip away at speed runs and that sort of thing. Like, that's when the game starts for me.
On the topic of pacing for the game, I actually think NGS is going to have really good pacing, like, fast-paced pacing of, releasing like new every 2 weeks, release like a new opening of the map. Like, say we get like half of the forest area at the beginning, and like 2 weeks maybe, the next month, like 2 weeks maybe we'll get something new. Because right now PSO2's pacing, or what it used to be, was every 2 weeks we would get some kind of new content. Like, if it's a scratch with a little bit of game update or something, maybe put in like, release an area, like a small area, but that area has maybe like 2 new cocoon quests you can go do. Stuff like that, like every 2 weeks. I think there's enough of what we currently can see on the map to, within the first 6-7 months, maybe a year, to like pace it out where it's well paced enough to release stuff fast enough to keep players' attention to the game.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm. Like, I remember sorry to cut you off, but in the beta we were looking out in the horizon and we thought, what was it, a second tower? Like, we just couldn't get to it because it was blocked off, but we could already see the second tower kind of quest cocoon just in the distance next to like a beach, I think it was.
And then there's also Aincrad flying over the volcano.
But yeah.
Yeah, there is Aincrad.
Yeah, there is also the like the story mode that can keep, like, you'll play the story first, like, and I think depending on how they pace the story, we could be engaged by that. Like maybe swap between the story and new filled updates like every other 2 weeks or something they could do.
Yeah, I think story can definitely play a really big part in content, because technically like having more story is more content. Like even if you're using the same places and stuff, but you add more story and maybe even just some conjecture and a lot of like various things that can really just fill the void to make the world feel more and more and more complete with every update. I think that's a really good direction.
And another point is, there's going to be more EQs than what we just have. Like, maybe every section could have its own specific like battle EQ or something. You never know. Like the EQ, how they have EQ set up is they could add a lot of them.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. That's gonna be very fun. The only thing I wish they don't focus too much on is like the limited quests, so to say. Like not the limited quest, but like in a way where I mean like quests are super limited access, or like they're just here for a real limited amount of time and stuff like that. Like PSO2 honestly had so many good content things here and there. Like initially when the Chronicles quest came out, right, I was like, that's like the most fun I've had in PSO2 in years. And then once it's gone, I'm just like, well, I guess my favorite content's gone now.
Yeah, I remember a lot of people enjoyed I know global people didn't get this, but the LQ episode 1 through 4, I don't know if they're going to really release it again with the pacing they have, or like the event thing they're having where they're releasing all the episode LQs. I don't know if that one's going to get included, but that one was like everyone's favorite at the time.
Yeah, it was absolutely amazing. But yeah, I feel like one of the things is like they shouldn't really gate content too much, even urgent quests, emergency quests, whatever you want to call it, it's like you can't really, I don't think it's realistic to really expect all the people to be like trying to catch all these like scheduled ones every time and really keep the progression of like your gear and your everything behind these things where it's not easy access for everyone, Like, for example, like you said, Caro, is like when TPD first came out, like you literally couldn't do anything for the first few days because you were busy with a lot of stuff, right? So realistically, it's like, imagine if TPD was like much more easy access and you didn't have to spend so much resources to just catch up because you couldn't run like the first wave of stuff,
Yeah, actually adding on to what you just mentioned, like if you try to run TPD now, it's empty. No one's running TPD right now. Like legitimately people are just waiting. If the urgent quest comes up, like maybe they'll do it, but if you're trying to like bank on triggers, like even if you buy the trigger yourself and you host it, chances are it's not going to fill up very quickly because people are like, oh, I don't want to do it anymore, or oh, I don't need any of the things that drop from it anymore. And so,
You're absolutely right. The thing is, I'm still interested in it. I think it's impossible to burn me out because I always look at every next attempt as an opportunity to improve or try something new.
Same.
And so I multi-shipped it. I did UH on ship 1 and then UH on ship 3 and then normal on ship 2 back to back to back to get my completions up. Mm-hmm. And it was cool because it incentivized me to play very, very well because if I was off on my damage by a little bit, I don't get to do it twice on UH. Mm-hmm. Or I don't get to hit the third on normal, etc. So that incentive was nice, but now if I try the same thing, I can't fill a lobby on ship 3 sometimes.
Yeah,
so the question here, like Cam, for example, for you, right, would you prefer content where it's just like scheduled like that, or would you rather have standing content where you need to gather your friends yourself and then do it?
Do I have to choose between? Because I feel like PSO could offer both pretty comfortably.
PSO2 can definitely offer both, but like if you had to choose a preference, what would you think would be more comfortable for you?
It would definitely be making a group and doing it at my own time schedule as opposed to what the game says. However, I think the scheduled urgent quests provide a sense of community.
Yes, it does.
And I like that and don't think that after being forced to play like that, I would have it any other way.
Because for me personally, I was thinking like maybe, add like, oh, you can access this anytime, like maybe like 1 or 2 times a day or something like that, maybe. And then if you want to catch the rest, you can catch it on like the schedule. So you don't fall behind too much.
That's a good compromise.
I think that's pretty fair. But like, I just want to just echo the sentiment a bit. But like, Caro, how do you feel, and Bob too, like how do you feel about, the setting up your own stuff and just doing the urgents versus having to like always wait for the urgent schedule and stuff like that. Let's go, Kara. How do you feel?
Okay. I personally think that, as you suggested, we should be able to double dip, but there should be more incentives on the random one, the scheduled one that comes up. Like, for example, a great compromise would be, yes, you can do this urgent quest whenever you want, right? But you're not going to get an extra 200% rare drop rate. But on these scheduled ones, you get 200% try boost or something across the board. And so there's a lot of incentive to do the scheduled ones. But if, maybe you have schedule conflicts or real life gets in the way, you can still do the content that you want. So you're not time gated or anything.
Yeah.
That's the compromise that I would like.
And that would actually echo back to like one of our earlier conversations as well, because imagine like if you were like a solo player or something like that, right? That would like kind of like incentivize people to have to find, groups to do the content and stuff like that. But if they do like the scaling where people can just play with like whatever number of participants they want and it will scale up and stuff like that, that would also be a really nice thing overall.
Yeah, I agree for sure. Because being able to play, let's say you can't gather 12 people, you've only got, your family members. So like in my case, maybe I have like me and my brother, and maybe we can grab 2 more friends or something. We've got 4 people. Maybe that's the minimum requirement to run that urgent quest, right? It scales to 4 people. Sure, you could solo it, but it still scales to 4 people. And I feel like that would be a good compromise, maybe.
Bob, how do you feel?
I actually really dislike the scheduled EQ system, but there's always compromises, like you said. But if I had to pick, I would just want like a quest that's always there that I can run at any time I want. Like that's just how I like the Phantasy Star games. Like, because I've come, you know me, I've come from older Phantasy Star games where that's basically how it was. Like, sometimes there was this limited time, like, LQs. But I just like the quest where I can run it anytime. It's from point A to point B. And they craft the quest enough that it looks nice to, like, it looks pretty. Like, it's not randomly generated for the most part. That's the kind of stuff I like to do the most. So I would vote for that if, there was a voting.
Yeah. Oh my god. No, I just thought of a really good idea. Holy, why did I not think of this? Okay, so while you were talking about all that, I just thought of a really, really good idea. Because, like, I know this is probably going to be, like, stretching the topic a lot, but I think this idea is super cool. Okay, so hear me out. So basically, in one of these games that I like to play with my friends as, like, a pastime for PSO2 and stuff like that is a game called Closers Online. In which what Closers does is when there's, like, this, like, raid quest and stuff that's coming out, there is a quote-unquote lesser version of that raid. So basically imagine like if there's like Luther, right, as like the new raid boss that's coming out. So have like the regular Luther be like scheduled and stuff like that, but there's like the mini version of Luther, so you can practice whether it be like solo and stuff like that. So you would still get like the whole essence of the whole fight. You get to practice and stuff before you go into main raids. And then on the main raids, they add like new attacks, new mechanics that you've never seen before in the practice ones. So it's kind of like what PSO2 Stories tries to do, right? Where you get to fight like a miniature solo version of like the bosses, like the emergency or urgent bosses and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's great. Yeah.
Excellent.
But I think if they make it more clear, rather than being in like a story quest and stuff like that, I think it's not a bad system.
I can quickly summarize Destiny's system. So they come out with story content that usually has some mechanic that is going to be parallel to the raid, right? So it might be throw a ball in this area to open this door or something. And you note that because then that'll appear in the raid later. Then on the first day of the raid release, they have what's called contest mode, where everything slaps you around. And then after that day one, it is normalized power. So if you're a super high level, you can dunk on everything. And then recently, they have discovered that players kind of like playing under contest mode circumstances and have let you self-select difficulties that put contest mode style enemies at you. So it looks like Destiny is pushing more towards letting the player choose that enhanced difficulty always, instead of it being a limited thing.
Yeah, in the old MMO that I played, Blade and Soul, we have a challenge system as well, where it's when you do a specific raid or a challenge, you get to pick whether you want to do it on normal mode, well, now it's easy mode. Now you can do it on easy, hard, or challenge mode. And the thing about challenge mode is it ranks your clear speed, and if you did the mechanics correctly, there's an entire scoring system around it. And you compete with everyone on your server, and there's a ladder board that shows up when you complete it or if you fail, and it tells you like, oh, what rank your team got. And there's a select few that really enjoy this type of competitiveness, because it's like, oh man, if we get rank number 1, like at the end of the week or at the end of the month, you get a big nice reward, like a limited time banner or like a cosmetic of some sort. And so it drives a lot of people to spend money, unfortunately. But the concept is there, right? The concept is competitiveness, but not through PvP, through PvE, which I encourage. I like that.
PSO2 actually did that a little bit with stuff like the first Profound Darkness, the flower one, where you had like the clear speed ranking that shows at like the end screen. Yeah, I think like personally in that time, like my team was going super hard at it because we're all like really trying to like get the ranking and stuff. So I think that's pretty funny. I think it's something really just like a small fun thing that doesn't really affect anything too much, but it keeps players more engaged and like more willing to be like, yo.
I was about to say, it's like a recipe for avoiding burnout, right? Is giving you an additional incentive to keep pushing the game.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's a pretty good wrapping point as well for just like the entire topic in general. But so the very last thing that I wanted to talk to all of you about is just, should we panic as players, as current PSO2 players or players who have never even played PSO2 before? Like, should I play PSO2 before NGS? Should I really like gear up for NGS? Like, what do you guys feel about this one?
I think playing PSO2 before is a little nice head start on MGS, because you don't have to worry about fixing your weapons or anything, because we still don't know how to get to 8 slots on a weapon on NGS, but, your PSO2 weapon isn't going to be much stronger than the endgame weapons currently on the beta, so there's still, like, no panic, because if you never played, you'll catch up to the other players pretty fast, and the other players would start having to use NGS weapons. So there's not a big reason to prepare. Like, if you currently play, and you got all this materials, you can start making stuff, especially if there's, on JP, there's a 0 upgrade cost campaign right now. It's free to make stuff right now.
I personally don't think there's any reason to panic. Like, legitimately, the only thing I care about right now in NGS is just keeping my character's look. Like, even if they decide that, oh, you can't carry your gear, LOL, we lied to you all. Like, I wouldn't care. I would be like, okay, as long as I can bring my character exactly how they look in PSO2 right now over to New Genesis. I don't need my levels, I don't need my Meseta, I don't need my gear. I just want to look the same, and I'm happy. So, I really don't care. So I'm not panicking at all, I'm not preparing anything. I'm just going to go in and just have fun.
If I can bring things to NGS that enable more fun playstyles, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Because for us, like, since we played the beta and stuff, right, we already know that literally you can, even if you don't have like endgame PSO2 weapons and stuff, like, you can literally catch up to those players in the span of like a week or even just 2 weeks. And then everyone's just going to be on an even playing field. So I think the way that they help transition into NGS just like gives, PSO2 players a little bit of a head start, but it's not an advantage so big that the new NGS players will feel, man, I can't catch up to these guys, that kind of thing.
Yeah, the only thing that...
Because honestly, like, in my opinion, like, all the weapons, all the stuff really shouldn't just transfer over at all.
The only really nice thing other than keeping on your aesthetics is if you already have the PSO2 weapons, just make like a lot of different weapons for different classes. It really is a nice head start for you to try out, like, a new player's coming in they're just like trying out all the classes like how they are, like, you know, just grab your newbie weapons or whatever. But with PSO2 players, you already have all these weapons where you don't have to like upgrade your weapon really, like a 3-star, because it's kind of costly in terms of how much money you make at the beginning to like upgrade it to where your 3-star or your 15 stars right now. So it lets you like try out all the new, like, how the weapon types play basically.
Yeah, I agree. I think as a content creator, it would be very helpful. Because, like, let's say that I'm a new player coming into New Genesis. The first thing that I would want to do, because I did the exact same thing in PSO2, was look up on YouTube and be like, what is the easiest beginner-friendly class to play? And so when I came into PSO2, I watched 2 videos. I watched Anamana's video and I watched RC's video. I was just like, alright, both of them said Bouncer or Braver. You said a whole bunch of other things, but that's the only thing I remembered. And I was like, Bouncer, psh, jet boots, disgusting. Braver, Katana, Weeaboo, perfect. And so I just picked up Braver, and I just never looked back, right? But in order to come to that conclusion, you have to have a general sense of like all the different weapons and how they work. So as a content creator, I feel like, being able to carry over a lot of my gear in order to test out things is pretty nice, but I wouldn't really go out of my way other than to make content for it, or like as Cammy said, to increase my enjoyment out of the game.
Yeah, because personally for me, I think the game would be perfectly fine even if none of this stuff transferred over. So I think the balancing and all that is great. So nobody should panic, honestly, and like if you want to prepare, you get rewarded for that, right? Because you don't have to spend all your resources too early, and then you can just spend all those resources to buy fashion instead.
I also, in a sense, kind of want to backpack my friends that are going to be brand new and make sure that they have the smoothest transition to knowing nothing about PSO and feeling comfortable in content.
Cammy, you did say that you feel like New Genesis is probably the most like quote-unquote family-friendly Phantasy Star game where it's just so easy to get into.
Right. And I feel like some of them are going to see the magic of the world of PSO and regress to PSO2 and be like, what's this? So I'm kind of creating a side project where I make a lot of like cookie cutter gear sets that I can just give away to friends when they try out the game.
I also think in terms of like what's going to happen to PSO2, I actually think more people will play PSO2 on release of NGS than what we currently have, just because it's like, oh, where do you get this cool looking thing? Oh, the old PS2. Let me go play that some. Like, let me go farm up like a camo real quick till I can use it on MGS or something. I think a lot of that is going to happen. I just hope like, you know, when MGS comes out, I hope PSO2 gets like a, you know, it's a big update to PSO2, but I hope PSO2 has like a big update where it just lets you like do a lot of like old quests that used to be like, just put old quests into the list of what you can run like as a permanent quest. I think that would be good for like people who like, oh, how did PSO2 used to play, and they come on and they can like just load up a quest of a raid boss or something without having to wait for an EQ or something.
Yeah,
expanding on challenge mode sounds like a plan, especially when they can take little snapshots of the timeline of the last 8 years and offer a challenge mode that shows that, kind of like a living history lesson.
Yeah, I think that'll be just a super cool idea to just add in as like a history museum, you know, just for fun. But yeah, I guess you know, you kind of answered the last question that I wanted to ask, like what do you guys think will happen to base PSO2, and should we still play it? And of course, the answer is a big fat yes to both the newer players who never played PSO2 before, that just got only in New Genesis. I think it's really cool to come back and see like how it came to be and stuff like that. But if you're not interested, that's also fine, right? Nothing's lost. But also for all the players that are currently playing PSO2, I'm almost 100% sure that PSO2 is definitely going to do some like cross-game campaigns and stuff like that. And I think it'll be very cool if they can like breathe new life into the base PSO2 and stuff too, right? As in like not just leave it into maintenance mode and stuff. But I guess that's just something in the future that we'll have to see.
I want to go with a hard read here. I think PSO2 is still going to get updated regularly like they said they wanted to do. and a lot of people right now are thinking, oh, so these are the final PSO2 updates because it's the final PSO2 station. And I'm like, no, it's not, because here's the reason. The reason why they ended PSO2 station is so they can do a global kind of thing. Because if you're watching PSO2 station, it's like, oh, here's the 30th PSO2 station plus. It's like, wait, what were the other ones? It's like a disconnect for global players. But if you start a brand new thing that's like for JP and global, kind of like how the MGS prologue is, I think there's a better connection. They honestly might just make an MGS station have PSO2 info in there like they do for PSO2S on PSO2 stations.
Yeah, I think that sounds absolutely amazing.
Imagine that there's a story quest in NGS that makes a callback to 1,000 years in the past, and then you get a new quest in PSO2 that is that callback.
Oh, that sounds so fun. And the thing is, like, the possibilities, the possibilities are there.
I think the story is going to do quite a few callbacks. Like, maybe new players won't really understand it, but old players in for PSO2 who's played like through the story and everything is going to like understand it. I think a lot of that's going to happen.
That would be pretty. Yeah, that would be awesome.
Which will also kind of like incentivize the newer players to be like, what happened? Yeah, and be like, yeah, you can like wink, wink, nudge, nudge, go over there and check it out.
My mind is racing right now. I'm thinking of like freaking time travel stuff. It's like, oh crap, Matoy died in a New Genesis. She got killed by XYZ. We go back in time, save her so that she shows up in New Genesis. And it's just like, oh, big brain.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah. Oh man, we're going super far in this, but man, yo guys, it's been such a fun conversation, to be honest. I feel like we did help the community answer like a lot of these like fun questions and also really get like our thoughts and our excitement and everything out there. So I think it's been great, honestly. Thanks guys for joining in.
Thank you.
Yep, was a pleasure.
Remember to like and subscribe.
Oh my god, Bob, no.
Like and subscribe the Bumped YouTube channel. We have 0 videos on it.
It exists now?
But it does exist now. How many subscribers can we get with 0 videos?
Bob.
No, man, all you have to do is you have to make a Bump Chan, a VTuber, bump.org Chan.
Bump Chan.
And then you get probably like, I don't know, 70k subscribers before you even upload one video.
When we get in the VTuber scratch in NGS, let's take the bets. 6 months in, 1 year in?
6 months sounds pretty
in.
good, honestly.
I'm more aggressive. I'm taking 3. I think 3 months.
I'm gonna make my Gunner Ranger Gouda.
Oh, nice. Good choice.
Come in with the symbol art.
Yeah.
That'd be so good. Oh right. So we're on the topic of shoutouts, right? So yeah. shout out to RC for inviting me onto this podcast. This first time here. So hopefully I didn't sound too much of a buffoon and blow all your eardrums, and you actually enjoyed my casual input as a casual player. Shout out to Bob for keeping up that website, super duper useful, and of course Cammy for being Cammy, very simple. I do have a YouTube channel at youtube.com/Karopi, so I would appreciate if you could check out my content there. Well, that's pretty much it.
Yes, subscribble to Master Karopi.
That's my Twitter.
Below.
Don't follow my
guys.
Twitter, please. I want to follow cultured content without getting in trouble.
I have a Twitter, but you have to find it yourself.
What a great shout out.
Look, if they want to find me, they can just log on PSO2. I'm not hiding.
Yeah, just be like, find this small waifu with a big raifu, doing dance 20 in this block right here.
Yeah, you see this like floating launcher or rifle, and you're like, oh, there's a ranger attached to that. Yeah, block 33, ship 1, or Japan, ship 2.
Mm-hmm. With that, once again, thank you very much everyone for joining us on the super long ride today. And, like I said, it's been an absolute blast, and I love talking to these guys, and hopefully we can probably, talk more on some streams or some, lots of weird and fun stuff. So make sure to go check out their content, especially Bob at bump.org/ No, I'm just kidding. But anyways, thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you all take care. Have a great day. Don't forget to smile as usual, and we will all see you sometimes in either New Genesis or sometimes very soon. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Adios.
Although before everyone leaves, today is April 13th of 2021, which is also CammyCakes' birthday, by the way. So happy birthday, Cammy! So I would like to ask all of you in the chat and also the YouTube comments to send over your love and support as well. And we will always wish for the best for Cammy. Hope you have a great year ahead of you.